Chapter 53:27. We just happened to bump into them today. It's their bad luck. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. They had originally planned to take back the position of the Holy Maiden of Light and then find a way to help Hong Chao regain his position. They didn't expect that Xiao Zhengliang would be kicked out of the position today. It was really an unexpected gain. I've heard about what happened today. Since it happened, almost everyone in the Sacred Assembly has been talking about it. Now Xiao Zhengliang is too ashamed to face everyone. I heard that he has returned to the Xiao family. I'm afraid he won't have a good time after returning. Speaking of which, I really have to thank the two of you for helping me vent my anger. Xiao Zhengliang shot himself in the foot today. But with Xiao Sou's temper, I'm afraid it won't be easy for Xiao Zhengliang to stay in the Xiao family in the future. After today's incident, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the extent of Xiao Sou's resentment towards her. Xiao Zhengliang made her lose face in front of her. Xiao Sou would definitely not let him go. By the way, did President Liu punish the vice president after returning? Di Bei-chun slowly said, his right hand rubbing the teacup. His long eyelashes fluttered, blocking the pair of charming eyes, making people unable to see clearly. As soon as President Liu returned, he directly called the vice president into the room. We could vaguely hear some reprimanding, but we don't know how he was punished. I heard that the vice president's face was very ugly when he came out. What about Xiao Sou? President Liu didn't say much about Xiao Sou. After all, this matter can be said to be a matter of the Sacred Assembly, but it can also be said to be a matter of the Xiao family. It's because of this angle that President Liu didn't say much. Hong Chao smiled. After this incident, I think the vice president's influence in the Sacred Assembly will be greatly reduced. Since Deacon Shi has returned to this position, it will be more convenient for you to do other things. Di Bei-chun said lightly. Of course, young Master Di, don't worry. There won't be any problems when the time comes. If that's the case, then we won't stay any longer. We should reduce our contact with each other for a while to avoid being discovered by others. Yes. The next day, a piece of news quickly spread throughout the Piercing Wind City. Have you heard? The young mistress of the D family is going to take the inscription master examination. Isn't Bailey Hongzhuang an alchemist and a doctor? Why do you want to take the inscription test now? This news came from the Inscription Association. It's 100% true. This is simply too fierce. It's already amazing for a normal person to be able to learn a single one. But not only did she learn two, but there's also a third. Lin Ming said. For a moment, everyone was amazed by Bailey Hongzhuang's energy and strength. If it were an ordinary person, it would be impossible for them to do so at the same time. As the news spread more and more widely, everyone began to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was a very powerful inscription master. Of course, there were also many people who were disdainful and thought that it was just a claptrap and not to be taken seriously. Ling Sun, I've sent people out early this morning to spread the news. Now, the news is spread throughout the streets of the Piercing Wind City. Chapter 53:28. Jun Lingxuan asked with a faint smile, I believe that they will be very surprised after hearing this news. Now that they are riding a tiger, they have no choice but to take part in the assessment. That's natural. Xiao Sou's face was filled with pride as her eyes twinkled with joy. Not only that, I have also specially prepared a big gift for them. What gift? The Alchemist Guild's president Liu Yuhai has a very good relationship with Master Guan. I heard that President Liu will be meeting Master Guan today, so I specially asked Guan Qian to say a few words in front of them. Bailey Hongzhuang is a deacon of the Alchemist Guild, and President Liu values her greatly. I believe that after hearing this news, he will be very happy to see Bailey Hongzhuang take the assessment. Xiao Sou raised her eyebrows. Don't you think that it will be very interesting? I wonder how President Liu will react when he sees his own guild's deacon being humiliated like this. Jun Lingxuan was stunned at first, but after understanding, his face revealed a sinister smile. Then the situation will be very interesting. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally peacefully cultivating when she suddenly heard a knock on the door. Only then did she exit her cultivation state with some doubts in her heart. Who would be looking for us at this time? Could it be Jiang Wenyin? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. The few of them did not go out. Other than him, I'm afraid that there is no one else. Di Beichen took the lead to open the door. As expected, the moment he opened the door, he saw Jiang Wenyin standing outside with an anxious expression. The two of you are still so calm? What happened? Di Beichen's brows wrinkled slightly, his handsome and unparalleled face filled with a trace of dignity. Now the entire Piercing Wind City is spreading the news about you guys. I heard that Hongzhuang is going to take the Inscription Master assessment. How did you know? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. Other than them and the attendant of the Inscription Association, no one else knew about this news. I don't know who leaked the news, but now everyone is talking about this matter. Everyone is saying that you are a first-class genius who is good at all kinds of occupations. Jiang Wenyin walked into the house with a worried look on his face. But I think this is overpraising him. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lin Yiqian immediately understood. Are the rumors exaggerated? Di Beichen asked in a deep voice. It's very exaggerated, almost praising Hongzhuang as if she is the best in the world. Jiang Wenyin nodded. If she can't pass the inscriptionist examination this time, then I'm afraid Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. They were familiar with this kind of flattery. The higher he raised her now, the worse she would fall when the time came. Could it be that Guan Qian did it? Xiao Hei stomped her feet in anger. That guy is too despicable. We didn't even do anything yesterday. Is there a need for this? Di Beichen shook his head slightly. With that guy's temperament, I'm afraid he won't do something as complicated as overpraising. That's strange. Other than him, there is no one else. Xiaobai knocked on her head, completely unable to understand. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two said in unison, Xiao So. The three of them looked at each other. Other than him, there is no one else who would do this. Xiao So has really put in a lot of effort to deal with me. Chapter 53:29. Now all the streets and alleys are spreading this news. It must be Xiao Sou's special instructions. Under their exaggeration, this news is getting more and more exaggerated. It's simply amazing. Jiang Wenyin's jade-like face was full of worry. The news is getting more and more intense. When the Inscription Master examination begins, it will have spread to the ears of all forces. At that time, with Xiao Sou's temper, I'm afraid that she will try her best to make this examination be carried out in front of everyone. Di Beichen slightly frowned. His pair of black eyes that were brighter than the stars in the dark night revealed a trace of heaviness and complexity. According to the situation that Jiang Wenyin said, he could almost conclude that Xiao So would absolutely not just do this. She did this to make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face. Since she wanted to lose face, she naturally had to do it in front of everyone to maximize the effect. Hearing this, Jiang Wenyin's pupils shrank, and his worry became even more intense. In this way, won't this Inscription Master examination become a Hongmin banquet? Forget it. Since Xiao So painstakingly prepared for me, if I don't accept her kindness, won't I disappoint her too much? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a terrifying self-confidence, and a sharp light flashed with extreme arrogance. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Jiang Wenyin suddenly realized that the beautiful woman in front of him, who didn't seem like an ordinary person, also had such a domineering side. The original worry seemed to have quietly dissipated a little. The previously difficult to deal with flattery also became easy to break. Do you really want to participate in the Inscription Master examination? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. Since I've signed up, I naturally have to participate. Otherwise, wouldn't I have wasted 10,000 spirit stones in vain? The reason for participating was that she didn't want to waste 10,000 spirit stones? Jiang Wenyin's lips twitched. Why did he feel that it was so unbelievable to hear from a 9th-level alchemist that she couldn't waste 10,000 spirit stones? I finally understand. You guys are determined to succeed in this matter. Jiang Wenyin looked at the two people who were calm and collected. He immediately understood that he had been worried for nothing. Di Beichen and Li Du already had a plan in mind. However, he still found it hard to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was an inscription master. Brother Jiang, thank you so much for coming all the way here just for us. Di Baiqian poured a cup of tea and handed it to Jiang Wenyan. Have some tea. Just wait for the show in 2 days. I do need some tea to calm my nerves. Jiang Wenyan drained the tea in one gulp and stared at Bailey Hongzhuang with his clear eyes that were as gentle as the sea. He asked with some confusion and surprise, Miss Bailey, I'm really curious as to how you managed to master so many professional skills. By his side, there were many powerful cultivators. But apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no one else who had so many talents gathered in one body. I'm just interested. If you're willing to spend more time, I'm sure you can too. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her indifferent appearance seemed to be saying that as long as you're willing, you can even eat a few bowls of rice. Of course, Jiang Wenyan wouldn't believe such words. To master a profession, not only does it require time, it also requires talent. Most importantly, a person's energy is limited. It's impossible to take care of everything. Chapter 53:30. After Xiao Shou had released the news, she ate her snacks and drank her tea proudly. She did not seem to be in a bad mood after being taught a lesson yesterday. It was only when she saw one of her subordinates return that her eyes lit up. She put the snacks back and looked at the person in high spirits. How was it? Did you notice any movements from Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest? Reporting to young miss, your guess is right. Jiang Wenyan rushed to the Drunken Cloud residence early in the morning and did not come out after entering Di Baiqian's room. Oh, Xiao Shou's brows slowly rose. They didn't do anything else? No, in this situation, it's impossible for them to turn the situation around. Even if they are in the room trying to think of a way, it's useless. Based on their standards, how can they fight with you? The man's face was full of flattery, and he did not hold back when he belittled Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. However, Xiao Shou was obviously pleased with his words. She was already in a good mood, and now she was in an even better mood. She immediately threw a money bag to the man. This is your reward. Continue to keep an eye on them, and don't let them have the chance to escape. The man received the money bag in surprise. Just by feeling the weight of the bag, he knew that the spirit stones here were enough for him to cultivate for a while. His eyes were filled with gratitude as he said, Thank you, young miss. I will definitely keep an eye on them. In the blink of an eye, the day of the inscription master's assessment had arrived. On this day, the entire Piercing Wind City was bustling with noise and excitement. Almost all the pedestrians on the bustling streets were discussing this matter. Today is the day of the Inscription Masters Association's assessment. I wonder if Bailey Hongzhuang will really go for the assessment? Of course, this news has spread like wildfire. If she doesn't go, wouldn't it be terrible? Furthermore, this is a good opportunity to prove her ability. You're really naive. With one look, you can tell that this news was not spread by Bailey Hongzhuang. It was spread by someone who wanted to mess with her. Among the cultivators, there were many people with discerning eyes. They only needed to think for a moment to know who was the initiator of this matter. As long as she was not an idiot, Bailey Hongzhuang would not do such a thing. Bailey Hongzhuang walked on the wide street and listened to the discussions in front of her. Her clear black eyes flashed with a trace of gratification. It seems that everyone is not stupid. You've all seen through the entire matter. Jiang Wenyan looked at the relaxed Bailey Hongzhuang and couldn't help but remind her, after you go there, Xiao Shou might have other plans to deal with you. You have to be mentally prepared. I know. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her already exquisite face became even more beautiful under the sunlight. Her fair skin was so delicate that it looked like it could be broken by the wind. No matter what she does, I'll take it. When they arrived at the Inscription Association, they noticed that the entire association was extremely lively. The degree of crowding was even more exaggerated than when they first arrived. It was to the extent that the entrance of the association was already packed to the point that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Obviously, the purpose of everyone's trip was to watch a good show. Bailey Hongzhuang is here. I don't know who shouted in the crowd, but suddenly the entrance of the Inscription Association was blocked, and in the blink of an eye, a path was opened for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to walk together. Chapter 53:31. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're finally here. Xiao Soa looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with sparkling eyes. She lifted her chin slightly, revealing a sense of ridicule and complacency. Oh, isn't this the Saint of Light? Logically speaking, you should be very busy. Why are you so leisurely all day long? Why can I see you everywhere? Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be surprised as she looked at Xiao Soa. Her delicate face had an elegant smile, as usual. Don't be so sarcastic. Xiao Soa's eyes were cold. She didn't know why, but Bailey Hongzhuang always had the ability to make her angry. I'm just worried about you. That's why I came to see your assessment today. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Her dark eyes were filled with ridicule and playfulness. I didn't expect you to be so concerned about me. Xiao Soa glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't know what to say. Coincidentally, there was a commotion behind her. She quickly turned her head. In her line of sight, Master Guan of the Inscription Association and the president of the Alchemist Association, Lu Yuhai, walked out together. Looking at the lively scene outside, their eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. I didn't expect that today's Inscription Master assessment would attract so much attention. Guan Jingshan couldn't help but sigh. Even if there were many forces heading to the Piercing Wind City recently, the Inscription Association shouldn't have attracted so much attention. Looking at Guan Jingshan's puzzled expression, Lu Yuhai couldn't help but chuckle. Today, everyone is here for Bailey Hongzhuang. After saying that, Lu Yuhai's gaze also fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Greetings, President Lu. Bailey Hongzhuang respectfully bowed. Towards this highly respected president, her heart was still filled with deep respect. We haven't seen each other for a long time since we parted in Qishui City. Lu Yuhai smiled as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. I didn't know that you had a talent in inscription. Guild leader Lu, you must be joking. I only know a little about it. You were originally a genius alchemist. Being able to grasp a bit of the surface in other aspects is already something that others cannot compare to. Lu Yuhai turned to look at Guan Jingshan and said, Master Guan, let me introduce you. This is the young madam of the D family. She's also an excellent deacon of the Alchemist Guild. She's a rare, genius alchemist. Lu Yuhai obviously admired Bailey Hongzhuang very much. The moment he opened his mouth, all he said were good things about her. Greetings, Master Guan. Hearing this introduction, Guan Jingshan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a hint of surprise in his eyes. I didn't expect Miss Bailey to be so talented. She's really outstanding. While Guan Jingshan was sizing her up, Bailey Hongzhuang was also sizing her up. Even though this was the first time they had met, there was no doubt that this person was Guan Qian's master. She originally thought that Guan Jingshan was also aware of this scheme. However, looking at the current situation, it seemed that Guan Jingshan was also kept in the dark. Master, there are so many people here today to watch Miss Bailey's inscription test. It wouldn't be good if everyone returned disappointed. In addition, there are many inscription masters participating in the test. Thus, I arranged for today's test to be held in the open. What do you think? Guan Qian spoke up at the right time. His grandfather had always been infatuated with inscription techniques. He didn't care about other things. Chapter 53:32. As Guan Jingshan listened to Guan Qian's proposal, he couldn't help but frown. Usually, this assessment was held in the inner sanctum, and outsiders simply couldn't see it. Today's lively scene made him feel that something was wrong. In addition to his understanding of his grandson, he was afraid that there really was something fishy going on. Feeling Guan Jingshan's gaze that seemed to see through everything, Guan Qian couldn't help but lower his head. He secretly cursed in his heart. I shouldn't have revealed any flaws. How come grandfather seems to have seen through everything? As Xiao Soa saw this, she quickly said, The Inscription Association has always been mysterious to everyone. Since everyone wants to see it this time, why don't we do it in the open? I believe that no one will object. The crowd suddenly burst into cheers. As the saying goes, one doesn't mind watching a good show. They didn't want to miss out on such an opportunity. Most importantly, they also wanted to know if Bailey Hongzhuang really had the ability to do this. If she did, then Bailey Hongzhuang's talent was simply too amazing. If she didn't, then how Bailey Hongzhuang would step down today would be an interesting question. No matter from which angle, this was a good show. Guan Jingshan looked at the situation around him. Although he expected that something was wrong, he didn't know what the problem was at the moment. Jun Lingxuan immediately said, "Grandmaster, look at these inscription apprentices who are about to take the assessment." They all agree. Guan Jingshan turned to look. Sure enough, the apprentices who were waiting for the assessment all nodded. They didn't seem to have any objections. Only Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Xiao Suo also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's awkward expression. Suddenly, the light in her eyes became brighter and brighter. She immediately said, "Bailey Hongzhuang, you don't dare to do it, do you?" As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, full of curiosity. "What does it have to do with you whether I dare or not?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, and the corners of her lips pulled up in a devilish smile. Against her stunning face, there was an indescribable seductive charm. In an instant, her beauty was limitless. Looking at such a Bailey Hongzhuang, the eyes of the men couldn't help but brighten. Such a woman was really a stunner. If it weren't for Di Beichen's unshakable status and the fact that he was always by Bailey Hongzhuang's side, he really couldn't control his heart's desire. Facing such a Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao Sei Wu was also stunned for a moment, and her bright eyes could not help but flash with a trace of jealousy and resentment. It was this damned woman in front of her who had stolen all of her glory. "You praises. S is right. I assentes is it to let everyone see your ability? TSSS. Now that everyone is here, you should be the most satisfied. Why do you have to be so secretive?" Xiao Suo snorted disdainfully, her eyes full of ridicule. "I praise myself?" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Miss Xiao, when you do things, you should at least use your brain. In the end, who did this? Everyone knows in their hearts." "I don't know what you're talking about." Xiao Suo's expression was calm, as if she didn't understand at all. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Suo's tit for tat, Guan Jingshan and Lu Yuhai couldn't help but look at each other. In their minds, they had some understanding of this matter. Chapter 53:33. Lu Yuhai was a smart person. Back in Qishui City, he already knew that Xiao Suo and Bailey Hongzhuang were not on good terms. It seemed that Xiao Suo had deliberately set up a trap for Bailey Hongzhuang. When he first heard the news, he felt that it was very strange. According to his understanding, Bailey Hongzhuang was not a high-profile person. Even when she revealed her talent in alchemy, she did not have the slightest bit of arrogance. On the contrary, she was very humble. As the president, he had seen all kinds of people. Just from her behavior at that time, he could determine Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament. However, now that he knew that Xiao Suo was behind this, everything could be explained. "President Liu, what do you think about this?" Guan Jingshan looked at Lu Yuhai. Now that almost everyone was here for this matter, it was not impossible for him to force the test to be carried out internally. However, it would attract a lot of criticism. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was not only the young madam of the Di family, she was also a deacon of the Alchemist Guild. Naturally, he had to ask for Lu Yuhai's opinion. This matter was clearly a trap set up by Xiao Suo and Guan Xian. If Bailey Hongzhuang lost face, then Lu Yuhai would naturally lose face as well. Hearing this, Lu Yuhai originally wanted to force the test to be carried out internally. However, when he saw Di Beichen's calm appearance from the corner of his eyes, he changed his mind. Di Beichen was famous for being protective of his wife. If this matter really affected Bailey Hongzhuang, then no matter what, Di Beichen would have already stepped out to stop it. Now that he did not say anything, it was obvious that he had come prepared. When Xiao Suo saw that Guan Jingshan had actually asked Lu Yuhai about it, she could not help but feel anxious. "Master Guan, we have already prepared everything. Let's just carry it out like this. Bailey Hongzhuang, if you have the ability, then go ahead with the assessment. If you don't, then just admit it." Xiao Suo narrowed her eyes and tried to goad her. She had to carry out this plan today. She wanted to see how Bailey Hongzhuang would respond. Looking at Xiao Sou's anxious and helpless appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, and her smile became more charming and enchanting. Since Miss Xiao wants to see me take the test so much, then I'll fulfill your wish. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Sou couldn't help but be stunned. She stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, wondering if she had heard wrongly. Bailey Hongzhuang actually agreed? Not to mention Xiao Sou, even Guan Qian was confused. He felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was really strange and did not play by the rules at all. On the contrary, Lu Yuhai revealed a meaningful smile after hearing this answer. His judgment was right. Bailey Hongzhuang had come prepared. Since that's the case, then today's assessment will be carried out in the open. Guan Jingshan breathed a sigh of relief. He did not want to make his good friend unhappy. The original situation was really a little difficult for him, but now that Bailey Hongzhuang had agreed, it was easier for him to make a decision. For a moment, everyone turned to the venue of the assessment, and the discussions and suspicions became more and more intense. I don't know if Bailey Hongzhuang really has this ability. Looking at her expression, it doesn't seem like she doesn't have any real ability. I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't want to lose her momentum in front of Xiao Sou. Chapter 53-34. When the D family arrived at the Piercing Wind City, they realized that there were only a few pedestrians on the streets. It was not as lively as they had expected, and everyone was puzzled. It's almost time for the inauguration ceremony of the Holy Maiden of Light. Logically speaking, the entire Piercing Wind City should be packed with people. Why are there so few people here? Di Zhai's face was filled with doubt. Usually, when there was a lively event, it would be extremely lively. Today's scene is indeed a little strange. Di Xiaofeng frowned slightly. Even the usual Piercing Wind City is more lively than it is now. Could it be that something has happened that we don't know about? Bailey Yunyan guessed. Just as everyone was walking towards their destination with doubts in their hearts, many passers-by saw them, and their eyes were filled with curiosity. Look, the D family is here. Did they know that Bailey Hongzhuang is going to take the Inscription Master assessment today, so they specially rushed over? It should be, otherwise it wouldn't be such a coincidence. Maybe they are worried that Bailey Hongzhuang will be embarrassed, so they specially rushed over to save the day. Di Xiaofeng had already felt that something was amiss, and when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's name being mentioned, he immediately called out to the man. What did you just say? Say it again. The man who was called out to looked at Di Xiaofeng's gloomy expression, and his face turned pale. He quickly waved his hand and said, No, nothing. Cut the crap. I heard you say something about an assessment. Di Xiaofeng stared at the man. Tell me everything. Seeing this, the man did not dare to hide anything and immediately told Di Xiaofeng everything that he knew. After hearing everything, Di Xiaofeng's gloomy expression became even more gloomy. He did not expect that Hongzhuang and the rest had only arrived at the Piercing Wind City for a short while, and this Xiao Sou had already thought of ways to set such a big trap for them. Damn it, Di Zhuai's cursed. The more I look at this Xiao Sou, the more I find her to be an eyesore. I have never heard of Hongzhuang having a talent in inscription, and this news has spread like wildfire. In the Piercing Wind City, only the Xiao family can achieve this in such a short period of time. Di Xiaofeng could not help but look at Di Yujue. His slightly cold jade face was filled with seriousness and worry. Father, we should also go and take a look. We can't just watch Hongzhuang get tricked by Xiao Sou just like this. Dai Heo and come, let's go and take a look. Di Yujue made his decision with a wave of his hand. His handsome face that was like jade carried a trace of coldness. Adding on the powerful aura that he unconsciously emitted, it caused the pedestrians on the street to involuntarily retreat when they saw this, as they were afraid of angering him. Mo Yunjue and the other three were also in the group. After hearing this news, their feelings were extremely complicated. I think the Xiao Sou is really too much. She can even think of such a method. Shangguan Yingying secretly spat as her clear eyes were filled with disgust. I really want to see how she will stop. Chapter 53-35. Hearing Xiren's words, Shangguan Yingying was slightly stunned. Previously, She had been thinking that this was Xiao Sou's trap, and had forgotten about this. Thinking about it carefully, Hong Zhuang did seem to know the inscription technique. Really, A.O. Lingxiao's face was originally filled with indignation, but when he heard Xiren's words, he could not help but be stunned. Hong Zhuang knows the inscription technique? Why didn't I know about this? There are many things that you don't know, Shangguan Yingying said calmly. Hong Zhuang is not someone who likes to show off. There are many things that you wouldn't know if you didn't meet her. Mo Yunjue's magnetic and cold voice rang out. Compared to Xiren's uncertainty, his voice was filled with certainty. Hong Zhuang does know the inscription technique. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Xiren and the rest were relieved. They knew how much Mo Yunjue cared about Bailey Hong Zhuang. Since he said so, it proved that this matter was definitely not wrong. Since Hong Zhuang does have the inscription technique talent, then what about today's trap? Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows. Why couldn't she understand it all of a sudden? Don't be impatient. We will know when we see it. Mo Yunjue was rather calm. Facing Xiren and the rest's puzzled gazes, he explained, Hong Zhuang and Deep Beichun are not people who are easily tricked. Shangguan Yingying and the rest nodded their heads secretly. They absolutely agreed with this point. Whether it was Bailey Hong Zhuang or Deep Beichun, they were all extremely intelligent. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou had long been thinking of ways to scheme against them. However, in the end, they fell into their hands after confirming that the inscription assessment would be held in public. Bailey Hong Zhuang and the rest followed the large group to the open-air plaza of the Piercing Wind City. This open-air plaza was specially designed for public competitions or assessments. In the center was a circular platform, and the seats around it were arranged in a stair-like manner, forming a circle that surrounded the central platform. This ensured that everyone sitting on the high platform could clearly see the situation on the high platform. The Piercing Wind City was a humongous city, and this open-air plaza was equally extravagant. At a glance, it wouldn't be a problem to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. Guan Jingshan and Liu Yuhai led the inscriptionist apprentices who were participating in today's assessment to the most important high platform. The various powers who came to watch the show all sat down around the platform. The scale of this open-air plaza was extremely large, but it could not hold a crowd. Within a short period of time, the entire plaza was filled to the brim. Almost everyone in the Piercing Wind City was attracted to this place. Today, as per everyone's request, the Inscription Association's assessment will be held here. During the assessment, I hope that everyone can remain quiet. Inscription drawing is an extremely meticulous task, and the slightest disturbance could lead to failure. This is also the reason why our association's assessment has always been held internally. Guan Jingshan looked at the many cultivators nearby, and his calm and deep voice was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears with the support of his elemental energy. Due to the unprecedented scale of this assessment, we have specially arranged for many inscriptionists to take part in the assessment today. Chapter 53-36. This was also the decision Guan Jingshan made after understanding the situation today. It was rare to have such a lively scene, and it was not a bad idea to let the inscription masters of the guild experience it together. Of course, there was another reason for him to do this, and that was to take care of Bailey Hong Zhuang. Although he was not sure what happened between Bailey Hong Zhuang and Xiao Sou, he knew that Bailey Hong Zhuang's inscription technique was not up to standard. That was why Xiao Sou planned to humiliate him in front of everyone. Bailey Hong Zhuang agreed to take the assessment in this open field, and it undoubtedly eased his difficulties. As an elder, he naturally could not let the younger generation take care of him. Moreover, this matter was related to his grandson. He gathered so many inscription masters to take the assessment together, and he knew that the failure rate would not be low. In this way, even if Bailey Hong Zhuang failed, she would not be embarrassed. Bailey Hong Zhuang was a little surprised after hearing Guan Jingshan's introduction. After noticing Guan Jingshan's kind eyes, she suddenly had some understanding in her heart. Originally, when she saw Guan Qian's vengeful appearance, she thought that Guan Jingshan was also such a person. However, it seemed that she had misunderstood. At least this Master Guan was magnanimous and did not help Guan Qian to deal with her. Instead, he took care of her. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's happiness, Xiao Shou could not help but frown. Her elegant face was full of dissatisfaction, but she did not show it. Guan Qian, what's wrong with your grandfather? Why is he helping Bailey Hongzhuang? Xiao Shou turned her head to look at Guan Qian. Her dark eyes were filled with confusion and depression. The reason why they set up such a big scene was to put Bailey Hongzhuang on the spot. Now, Master Guan actually took the initiative to give Bailey Hongzhuang a way out. Guan Qian was slightly stunned, and his expression was a little awkward. He did not dare to look into his grandfather's eyes. He was afraid that he would be reprimanded when he went back today. Grandpa probably knew that we were behind this, so he did this. Guan Qian lowered his head. He knew his grandfather too well. Although Guan Jingshan had always put all his attention on inscription technique, he had always been fair and could not stand this kind of thing. It was precisely because of this that he did not dare to be too presumptuous on weekdays. This time, in fact, he was originally a bit entangled, but it happened that Xiao Se Wu also wanted to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang, so he helped a bit. However, from his grandfather's attitude, he was afraid that, looking at Guan Qian's worried look, Xiao Shou's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. This guy still hadn't really grown up yet. He couldn't even handle her grandfather. What else could he do? Because there were suddenly a lot of inscriptionists coming to take the test, they still needed some time to prepare, so everyone waited patiently. During this process, the Xiao family's patriarch, Xiao Yanlong, and the Jun family's patriarch, Jun Hongcheng, both arrived at the open-air plaza. Seeing the appearance of these two people, everyone looked sideways. I didn't expect that even these two patriarchs would come. It seems that today's matter will cause a stir. Although I already knew that both sides were connected by marriage, it seems that their relationship is not ordinary. Chapter 53-37. Seeing the appearance of Xiao Yanlong and Guan Jinyu, Xiao Shou, who was originally unhappy, had a joyful smile on her face. She had previously informed Xiao Yanlong about this matter, but even she did not expect Xiao Yanlong to come personally. Guan Jingshan and Lu Yuhai were also surprised when they saw this scene. Master Xiao, Master Jun, I did not expect that today's assessment would attract both of you. Xiao Yanlong smiled as he cupped his hands together. It just so happens that Brother Jun has arrived in the Piercing Wind City today. I had intended to bring him around, but I never thought that everyone would be attracted to this place, so I called him along. I hope that Master One will not take offense. Indeed, today is a rare occasion, so I wanted to take a look. I hope I did not disturb the two of you. Junhong Chung smiled and said. However, while they were talking, Junhong Cheng's eyes were still looking around. When he realized that the person he wanted to see was not here, he faintly revealed a trace of disappointment. What are the two of you talking about? Our Inscription Masters Association is honored that you are here. Guan Jingshan smiled and said. Looking at Xiao Yanlong and Guan Jinyu who were not far away, a trace of disdain appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. This is really a big scene. It's just an Inscription Master's assessment, and even the masters of two families are here. Junhong Chung must have come here to see if father is here. Di Beichen's face turned cold. He did not miss Junhong Cheng's expression just now. However, he seems to be very disappointed that father is not here. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widened, and she immediately understood. So they're here to show off? All these years, Junhong Chung has been trying to replace us and cooperate with the Xiao family. Now that he has succeeded with great difficulty, he naturally wants to show off. Di Beichen's eyes turned cold. He increasingly felt that Jun Lingxuan and Junhong Chung were really father and son. Their personalities were extremely similar. Let them be. Bailey Hongzhuang retracted her gaze. There was a hint of contempt and mockery in her bright eyes. Let's see if they can still laugh after a while. Although she was not sure if she would be able to activate the inheritance after becoming the Saintess of the Light, she had a hunch that she would succeed. Father, you're here. Xiao Shou welcomed him with a face full of smiles. At the same time, Jun Lingxuan was also by her side. Looking at the matching appearance of the two juniors, Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongcheng's eyes revealed a satisfied smile. Xiao Yanlong had previously felt rather depressed about this situation, but now he really felt that it was more pleasing to the eye. "Father, since you're here, let's sit down and have a look," Jun Lingshuan said with a smile. Jun Hongcheng looked around and nodded. "Okay." As the patriarch of an aristocratic family, it was naturally impossible for him to sit in the stands with a group of young cultivators. Guan Jingshan immediately prepared seats for them, and they sat together in the examination area. "Before I came here, I heard that Bailey Hongzhuang of the D family is a first-rate genius. Her inscription technique is also amazing. I really want to see it." Jun Hongcheng looked meaningfully at Bailey Hongzhuang. There was a trace of malice and viciousness in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 53:38. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, the Jun family wouldn't have suffered such a crushing defeat in Qishui City. If it wasn't for the small number of cultivators who entered, Shitao wouldn't have fallen. All of these had something to do with Bailey Hongzhuang. Feeling Jun Hongcheng's venomous gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang calmly raised her eyes and looked straight into his eyes. The other party's imposing aura immediately disappeared in front of her. The golden sunlight shone on the slender and enchanting figure in white. Her slightly raised face was filled with confidence and brilliance. Her pair of bright eyes were emitting a terrifying brilliance and sharpness. For a moment, everyone present could feel the collision and sparks between Jun Hongcheng and Bailey Hongzhuang. However, none of them expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would not be at a disadvantage when facing Jun Hongcheng. In fact, she was even more dazzling. Guan Jingshan and Lu Yuhai quietly looked at each other. The situation today was really more complicated than they had expected. Jun Lingshuan noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's disdain towards his father, and his face turned ugly. He immediately said, "Recently, the entire Piercing Wind City has been talking about Bailey Hongzhuang's inscription technique. It almost overshadowed the limelight of the Holy Maiden. If she didn't have an outstanding inscription talent, how would she dare to steal the limelight with such fanfare?" Hearing this, Xiao Sou's face also revealed a mocking smile. "That's right. Some people just like to play to the gallery. They just hope that they are really capable." Di Beichun saw that the other party was picking on Bailey Hongzhuang, and a trace of sternness flashed across his sparkling eyes. Is this considered as the young one not being able to do it, so she found the old one to play against her? Di Beichun's magnetic voice that sounded like the sounds of nature came out of his mouth. It was like a clear spring in summer that made people's hearts turn cold. However, the words that came out of his mouth were filled with the smell of gunpowder. It carried a ruthless tit-for-tat. Neither was he willing to back down. If Jun Hongcheng's words were said with some concealment, then Di Beichun's words were said with disdain. Everyone could clearly feel the ridicule and contempt in his words. As these words fell, the expressions of Jun Hongcheng and the others became extremely ugly. Because none of them had thought that Di Beichun would say such a thing under the watchful eyes of so many people. Puchi, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. Di Beichun's words really hit the nail on the head. She also knew how vicious her husband's tongue was. The originally tense atmosphere became even more awkward with Bailey Hongzhuang's chuckle. It was obvious that she was mocking them. Di Beichun, don't go too far. Usually Di Beichun would diss him. However, now that Di Beichun had directly dissed his own father, how could Jun Lingshuan hold back? He jumped up as if his butt was on fire. "You actually have no manners in front of your elders. You really have no manners at all." Xiao Sou was also angry. "Elder, you should act like an elder." Di Beichun's expression was indifferent, as if the other party wasn't criticizing him. "Since you think of yourself as an elder, you should speak more politely. Do you really think that everyone is an idiot who can't see through such blatant trampling?" Chapter 53:39. Even though the anger in his heart was enough to ignite everything, Jun Hongcheng had no choice but to pretend to be tolerant. He smiled faintly and said, "It seems that my previous words were misunderstood by Di Gongzi. I was just mentioning the latest news. Ling Sun, don't say any more." But father, Jun Lingxuan frowned. How could he let Di Beichen speak nonsense like this? Forget it. Jun Hongqing emphasized, it's normal for young people to be a little angry, but you still need to have the corresponding strength. Since I dare to say it, I naturally have it. Di Beichen said faintly. He didn't feel that the other party's words were pointing at him. On the contrary, he admitted it so calmly. Looking at Di Beichen's stubborn appearance, Jun Hongqing almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. If he knew that Di Beichen was such a guy, he wouldn't have said such words. Originally, he didn't want to do anything. After all, in this kind of situation, he always had to worry about his image. He just mentioned it a little. Who would have thought that it would lead to a series of consequences that made him regret it? The people below the stage naturally saw the situation and immediately sighed in their hearts. I've long heard that Di Beichen is extremely protective of his wife. Today, it seems that the rumors are true. Even if the Di family and the Jun family have always been enemies, Di Beichen actually dared to speak to the Jun family head like this. It's really shocking. This is too arrogant. I really envy Bailey Hongzhuang. If a man is willing to treat me like this, it's simply too fortunate. Seeing that the situation was too awkward, Xiao Yanlong couldn't help but speak out. Young people are naturally angry. Young Master Di, there's no need to take this to heart. It's a good thing that your wife is so talented, isn't it? Di Beichen glanced at Xiao Yanlong indifferently. He was too lazy to say anything to the enemy. Looking at Di Beichen's appearance, Xiao Yanlong's heart was also a little angry. He really didn't think that Di Beichen would be such a hothead who didn't care about anything. Even if the two sides were opponents, as a junior, at least on the surface, he should put on an act. Who would have thought that Di Beichen didn't care about this at all? Jun Hongqing, Xiao Yanlong, are you trying to bully my family's juniors when I'm not here? At this moment, a deep and powerful voice came from outside the square, attracting everyone's attention. Then, Di to lead the Di Beichen to the crowd. Di Yujue, who was in the lead, was wearing a black robe. Compared to Di Beichen and the rest who had a jade-like face, Di Yujue was undoubtedly more mature and steady. His eyes were bright like stars, and his black hair was like a waterfall. In addition to his innate awe-inspiring might, he became the focus of attention in the blink of an eye. His strong words were filled with dominance and fierceness. Di Yujue's gaze fell on Jun Hongqing and Xiao Yanlong, who were on the high platform. Although he was outside earlier, he had heard the words inside. He really didn't think that these two fellows would become more shameless as they got older. Under such circumstances, they actually had the nerve to target their juniors. Hearing these sudden words, Jun Hongqing and Xiao Yanlong were both stunned. Originally, they came here because they thought that Di Yujue might have already arrived. They never thought that when they arrived, Di Yujue wasn't here. At this time, Di Yujue actually appeared. Most importantly, the timing of his appearance was so coincidental that it was a little awkward. Chapter 5340. Following Di Yujue's words, the atmosphere in the open-air square became stifling. Everyone stared at Di Yujue in a daze, their eyes filled with disbelief. Di Beichen's words had already shocked them, and now Di Yujue's words made them gasp. This was a blatant insult. He didn't try to cover it up at all, and it completely stunned everyone. For a moment, everyone was certain that Di Beichen was Di Yujue's son. Like father, like son, his words were so domineering, not giving the other party any face. At this moment, Di Yujue did not care about this at all. His son and daughter-in-law had finally returned to the family with great difficulty. Usually, he did not have enough time to cherish them. Now that he was not around, these two guys actually held such a Hongmin banquet to target them. How could he take this lying down? Jun Hongqing and Xiao Yanlong's faces were darker than the bottom of a pot. Di Beichen's words earlier were enough to make them angry, but at least they could cover it up. However, Di Yujue's words made them lose face. Di Yujue, don't you dare slander us. Jun Hongqing stood up abruptly. His face was flushed red, and it was easy to see the anger on his face. Whether it's slander or not, everyone knows in their hearts. Di Yujue was too lazy to pay attention to him. Jun Hongcheng originally wanted to properly argue with Di Yujue, but who would have thought that this fellow would coldly say such a thing, making him unable to respond at all. This kind of feeling of not being able to use one's strength was truly uncomfortable. Most importantly, the thoughts of everyone present seemed to have been led astray by Di Yujue's words. He had only casually mentioned it, okay? He had not said anything yet, but Di Beichun had already begun to counterattack. It was one thing for him to endure it, but now even Di Yujue was doing the same thing. Was he trying to anger him to death? How did he bully Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang? Guan Jingshan saw that the atmosphere was getting tenser and tenser, so he quickly stood out to smooth things over. Di Family Head, welcome. The inscription test is about to begin. Why don't you sit down and rest first? Thank you, Master Guan. Di Yujue looked at Guan Jingshan with a warm smile on his face. That apologetic and reasonable look was like a completely different person from his previous tit-for-tat attitude. When Xiren and the others looked at each other, in their eyes, Di Yujue had always been a kind and amiable elder. However, today's events had made them realize just how strong Di Yujue was. And this side of him made them admire this uncle even more. I finally know why Di Beichun has always been so domineering. It's completely hereditary. Shangguan Ying's eyes flashed with excitement. This was simply too mighty and domineering. Needless to say, the number of people who admired Di Yujue was no less than Di Beichun. This kind of man was simply too charming. Ao Lingxiao also nodded. Uncle is indeed domineering. Look at the Jun family's faces. Why do I feel so happy? I think so too, haha. After Di Yujue sat down on the high platform, Di Xiaofeng and the others walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Their aura and foundation were instantly revealed. Chapter 5341. Beichun, what's going on? Di Xiaofeng couldn't wait to ask after sitting down. He was just a few days late. He couldn't understand how Hongzhuang got involved with the Inscription Association and even let Xiao Sou and the others use her. Feeling everyone's concerned gaze, Di Beichun also briefly explained the ins and outs of this matter. So it's like this. It seems that Xiao Sou and the others are really taking advantage of this opportunity. Di Xiaofeng furrowed his brows. But now that things have come to this, what do you plan to do next? Hongzhuang, do you really know how to inscribe patterns? Dai Haoan revealed a worried expression. Not only him, but all the cultivators of the Di family looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with worry. This result was too important. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Don't worry, Hongzhuang, this assessment isn't a joke. Today's big battle is clearly aimed at you. If you fail the assessment, the Jun family and the Xiao family will definitely not let go of this opportunity to ridicule us. Di Xiaofeng's expression was serious. Now that things had come to this, it wasn't just Bailey Hongzhuang's problem anymore. It was related to the entire Di family. Recently, Xiao Sou had been in the limelight, and they were already at a disadvantage. If this matter overlapped, then they really wouldn't be able to raise their heads for a while. I won't let them have this opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze quietly fell on the black figure on the high platform. Her jade-like black phoenix eyes were filled with respect and love. Previously, Di Yujue's protectiveness warmed her heart. She was very fortunate to have such a father. Even if he directly fell out with the other party in front of everyone, Di Yujue didn't hesitate at all. Although all of this didn't match his usual image, it was precisely this kind of performance that vividly displayed his love for them. He was an elder that she respected and loved. She would definitely not let him lose in front of his opponent. Ever since she had transmigrated, she had suffered a lot of mockery and sarcasm. Thus, she cherished the love and care that came from the bottom of her heart. The inscription master examination begins now. After all the preparations were completed, Guan Jingshan did not delay any longer. He sat beside the three family heads. Even though he was at the edge, he could still feel the sparks from the collision. If he wasn't careful, a single spark could start a prairie fire. Therefore, it was better for him to hide. The first round of the examination is the Grade 1 Inscription Master Examination. All inscription apprentices, please step onto the high platform. As Guan Jingshan's voice fell, Everyone's eyes lit up. Even though the previous show had stunned them, this was the real highlight of the show. Bailey Hongzhuang also slowly appeared on the stage under everyone's attentive gazes as the group of inscription apprentices walked up to the stage. The enchanting and slender white figure was like the moon surrounded by stars. She was still a unique existence among the inscription apprentices. She was always so dazzling and eye-catching. The first round of the examination is to draw the grade 1 clear water inscription. In front of you, the materials needed for the inscription have been prepared. As long as you successfully draw the inscription within the stipulated time, you will pass. Guan Jingshan concisely and comprehensively explained the conditions and requirements of the competition. His loud voice allowed everyone to hear him clearly. Now, the examination begins. Dong. Chapter 5342. On the high platform, hundreds of inscription masters were gathered together. In front of each of them were materials and instruments. All of these things were prepared by the Inscription Association. If it was before, Bailey Hongzhuang might be worried that someone would tamper with the materials. However, after knowing Guan Jingshan's character, she was completely at ease. After all, Guan Qian's expression in front of Guan Jingshan was like a mouse that saw a cat. It was impossible for him to tamper with the materials in front of Guan Jingshan. Level 1 Clear Water Inscription. This was the most basic inscription pattern. The effect of the clear water inscription was very simple. When it was superimposed on the weapon, it would allow the cultivator to be more focused. When fighting, they would be calmer and would not be affected by other things. Although the effect was not great, it was very useful in a battle or even a life and death situation. In the Grade 1 Inscription Master examination, the clear water inscription was often used as a topic. Inscription patterns were different from alchemy. Every high-level inscription pattern was superimposed from the basic inscription patterns. If one could not even understand the basic inscription patterns, then it would be impossible to become a high-level inscription master. It was because of this that becoming a high-level inscription master required more time and effort than becoming a high-level alchemist. They had to master more inscription patterns. Only then would they have the possibility to improve. With the command, all of the inscription master apprentices started to move at the first moment. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the various materials in front of her. She started to weigh, grind, and create the inscription liquid in an orderly manner. Inscription was a meticulous and long process. The entire process needed to be extra careful, and there could not be any mistakes. When creating the inscription liquid, if there was one more or one less gram of material, then the inscription would not be successful. The inscription liquid could be said to be the most important. Di Yujue sat down beside Xiao Yanlong. The two of them were good friends in the past, but at this moment, they had cold faces and did not pay attention to each other. From a day they shed all pretense of cordiality. All of their previous friendship had turned into nothingness. All that was left was cold hostility. Guan Jingshan and Lu Yuhai felt the stiff atmosphere between the three of them. The two of them could not help but sigh. This kind of heavy atmosphere was really depressing. Di Yujue, I haven't seen you for a while. I see that your strength has not increased by much, but your temper has become much worse. Junhong Cheng's face was cold. Just now, Di Yujue had cursed him in front of everyone. Although Guan Jingshan had smoothed things over, the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. As the head of the Jun family, he was humiliated in front of so many people. How could he take this lying down? Of course I wouldn't treat others like this, but for someone like you, do I need to be polite? Di Yujue raised his eyebrows slightly, his cold and handsome face full of disdain. In the past, he would have some scruples when facing Jun Hongcheng, but now that he knew that Jun Hongcheng was involved in Bei Chen's disappearance, he couldn't even be bothered to pretend to be amiable on the surface. Sooner or later, he would personally take off this guy's head. Jun Hongcheng heard this, and a trace of sharpness appeared in his eyes. In his mind, he was thinking, could it be that Di Yujue had found out that they were the ones who did it? However, according to the news that came out, Di Kaiyuan did not say this news at that time. Chapter 5343. That's true. Jun Hongcheng suddenly chuckled. Everything that you were so proud of back then has now fallen into my hands. You can be arrogant all you want, but you've finally succeeded after so many years. Di Yujue said indifferently. Are you feeling unbalanced? Jun Hongqing looked at Di Yujue playfully. Back then, Di Yujue had threatened that he would never succeed, and he still remembered it clearly. The Jun family had indeed never succeeded in so many years, but in the hands of Jun Hongqing, they had finally succeeded. Thinking of this, Jun Hongqing's original anger dissipated a little. After all, he was the one who had succeeded. I just didn't want it anymore, so I gave it to you out of charity. Di Yujue's face was calm. You know the whole story, so there's no need to be complacent because it wasn't your work in the first place. As soon as these words came out, Jun Hongqing's eyes narrowed again, but he threatened, I don't think so. It's just your precious son who ruined your plan. If not for that, why would you give up such a great opportunity? As far as I know, the power of your family's inheritance is getting weaker and weaker. Di Yujue coldly glanced at Jun Hongqing, then retracted his gaze. You don't need to worry about that. We've known each other for so many years. I'm just concerned about you. You want to get information from me? Di Yujue sneered. I advise you to give up on this idea. Besides, even if our family's power is really weakening, you haven't been able to bring us down for so many years, so don't you feel depressed? I'm too lazy to bicker with you. Everyone knows the situation of your family. Jun Hongqing didn't take Di Yujue's words to heart. The three families had been in contact for so many years, so he already knew the situation of the Di family. In fact, the relationship between the Jun family and the Di family was also very good hundreds of years ago. The heads of the two families were best friends, so both sides understood each other's situation quite well. However, because the Di family had always been suppressing the Jun family, over time, this relationship changed. Giving up Xiao Shou for a woman from a lower realm, only you can do that. It's really stupid. Even though he had picked up a big bargain, Jun Hongqing couldn't help but ridicule Di Yujue. He was sure that Di Yujue was also extremely depressed on this point. The impenetrable defense that they had built for so many years was suddenly destroyed, and the reason for this was not a big deal. From the perspective of the Di clan, how could they not feel heartache? Xiao Yanlong, who was standing to the side, listened to the discussion between the two, and his already cold face turned even uglier. No matter how one looked at it, their marriage was rejected by the Di family. This made them lose face. Haven't you seen how powerful my daughter-in-law is? Di Yujue didn't care. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have lost so badly in the pill refining competition. As soon as he finished speaking, Di Yujue turned his head away, too lazy to pay attention to Jun Hongqing. This guy had only come here today to hold his head high in front of him, but he didn't intend to give Jun Hongqing this opportunity. No matter how proud Jun Hongqing was, at least in front of Di Yujue, it was impossible for him to take advantage of him. Jun Hongqing was rendered speechless by Di Yujue's words. After so many years, this guy's words were still infuriating. Chapter 53-44. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully ground the materials into powder and then separately put them into different containers. She was not in a hurry, and the whole process was pleasing to the eye. Obviously, this process was not beautiful, but when everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they had a beautiful feeling. Compared to the other people's fluster, everything she did was really like moving clouds and flowing water, and it made people's eyes light up. After Xiao Shou noticed this scene, her face that was originally waiting to watch a good show suddenly stiffened a bit, and her slightly frowned brows revealed doubt and shock. She did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang really knew the inscription pattern technique, but now, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was impeccable, and everything was impeccable as if she was familiar with it. Because all the inscriptionists were preparing to draw the first-level Clearwater inscription, so everyone's steps were almost the same. So from Bailey Hongzhuang's preparation, it was easy to see that she really knew the preparation process of the first-level Clearwater inscription. How is this possible? Xiao Shou felt that it was unbelievable. When did Bailey Hongzhuang come into contact with the inscription pattern technique? After Jun Lingxuan noticed this point, his eyebrows suddenly jumped, and his low voice revealed a trace of worry and dignified. So, this Bailey Hongzhuang really knows the inscription pattern technique, right? This is impossible, Xiao So subconsciously said, and turned to stare at Jun Lingxuan, and her burning eyes eagerly wanted to get a confirmation. She can't be good at so many professions at the same time, am I right? Feeling Xiao So's anxiety and panic, Jun Lingxuan pulled her hand and said, "So, don't worry, there are so many people here, you can't lose your sense of propriety." Hearing this, Xiao So's tense body relaxed. At least she could not let others see the clues. Now, we are just preparing the inscription liquid. We have not started the inscription pattern yet. Bailey Hongzhuang also came prepared today, and in addition, most of the questions of the first-level inscription master examination are Clearwater inscription, so it is not strange that she knows the process of making the inscription liquid. However, if you want to draw the inscription successfully, it is not so easy. Jun Lingxuan's expression was extremely calm. Since Bailey Hongzhuang dared to come here today, she must have made some preparations, otherwise, even he would not believe it. Learning how to make the inscription liquid, although it was difficult, it could be done as long as one was focused enough, in addition to a woman's nature. However, to learn how to draw the inscription pattern in a short time, it was impossible. It was not easy to become an inscription master. A lot of people Clearwater Hongzhan inscription pattern, but to learn Hongzhuang's talent. Even inscription patterns, inscription pattern therefore, hers is. Xiao So was originally nervous to the extreme, but when she heard Jun Lingxuan's words, she was relieved. Indeed, I was too nervous. Relax, the examination has just begun. Jun Lingxuan comforted her. After Bailey Hongzhuang grinded all the materials, she put them into the furnace, controlled the temperature, and began to boil the inscription liquid. Although this production of the inscription liquid was not complicated, but it required 100% concentration. If there was a slight difference in the temperature, it would cause the inscription liquid to fail. Chapter 5345. Although Di Xiaofeng and the others received confirmation from Bailey Hongzhuang, their hearts were still drumming. Although they didn't understand the inscription technique, everyone knew that it wasn't easy to draw inscriptions. If it wasn't so, it wouldn't be so difficult for them to obtain inscriptions. However, after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's orderly performance on the stage, everyone relaxed a little. I didn't think that Hongzhuang would really know the inscription technique. Now we can rest assured. Di Xiaofeng quietly let out a sigh of relief. Although the competition wasn't over, from Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, it could be seen that she was very familiar with the process. She definitely wasn't new to the inscription technique. Di's eyes and the others' eyes were filled with amazement. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had other hidden talents besides the talent that she displayed before coming out? Bei-chun, isn't your wife a little too powerful? Di's eyes was ashamed. At that time, he actually doubted Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. Now it seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to be serious with him. I feel that in terms of ability, no one can be compared to the young madam. It's already very difficult for us to raise our cultivation. Not only did the young madam's cultivation not fall behind, she also mastered alchemy and medical skills. Now, she even dabbled in the inscription technique. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't dare to believe it. This person's words were undoubtedly the thoughts of many people. The cultivators in the group all nodded. This situation was really too amazing. Seeing that the inscription liquid in the furnace had reached the state that she wanted, Bailey Hongzhuang adjusted the furnace flame to the minimum to maintain the temperature. Then, she picked up the inscription pen. The inscription paper was already prepared. After dipping it in the inscription liquid, she began to draw the level 1 Clearwater inscription. Among the many inscription apprentices, Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was undoubtedly the fastest. Only a few inscription apprentices were able to keep up with her speed. Most of the inscription masters were still making the inscription liquid. As soon as an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was an expert. Guan Jingshan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's skillful movements, and a trace of admiration appeared in his eyes. He was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang had put a lot of effort into this inscription technique. Although everyone clearly remembered the steps, Bailey Hongzhuang clearly knew everything. Moreover, after many practice sessions, she knew how to make the inscription fluid in the shortest time possible. She also knew how to preserve the inscription fluid. In fact, when Bailey Hongzhuang arranged the materials on the table, he already understood. These materials were placed randomly. No one cared about the order, but in order to make it convenient for Bailey Hongzhuang to take them, she placed them in the most convenient way. He also had this habit. Looks like this Miss Bailey is indeed quite accomplished in inscription technique, Guan Jingshan said with a smile. Listening to Guan Jingshan's praise, Lu Yuhai's eyes slightly changed. He was a little surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang hasn't completed the inscription, and you already know? Guan Jingshan smiled and nodded. I've been an inscription master for so many years. I still have this bit of eyesight. Chapter 5346. At this moment, Lu Yuhai was completely certain that his previous judgment was not wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang came here today because she had a card up her sleeve. Although Xiao Sou had set a trap for her, she was going to beat her at her own game. You said earlier that she was a deacon of your guild? Guan Jingshan revealed a curious expression. Although Lu Yuhai had mentioned this matter before, he did not take it to heart. Now that he had noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, his interest was piqued. Such a talented young person was really rare. Lu Yuhai nodded slightly, his expression revealing a trace of pride and admiration. Don't look down on her young age. She's already a 9th grade alchemist. Previously, during the alchemy competition in Qishui City, she shocked all of us. In addition, I heard that her medical skills are also extremely outstanding. I also did not expect her to dabble in inscription technique. After hearing all this, Guan Jingshan's gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang changed. Then this Miss Bailey is really a genius among geniuses. The D family is really full of talents. Lu Yuhai smiled faintly as he looked towards Di Yujue. Although the Xiao family and the Jun family had formed an alliance, in his opinion, the D family's development was not bad. The most important thing was that a young 9th grade alchemist like Bailey Hongzhuang had limitless possibilities to become a 10th grade alchemist in the future. The appeal of a 10th grade alchemist was extremely terrifying. This was also one of the reasons why he had tried to rope in Bailey Hongzhuang early on. President Lu is too kind. Di Yujue's handsome face revealed a smile. Although his words were very modest, everyone could see that he was very proud of his daughter-in-law from his expression. Compared to Di Yujue's pride, Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong could not help but look at each other, their hearts beating like drums. Wasn't it said that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be a real inscription master? Jun Hongcheng frowned. It was because he was sure of this that he decided to come here to take a look. If Bailey Hongzhuang was truly proficient in inscription techniques, then wouldn't they be giving Di Yujue a chance to mock them? Xiao Yanlong's expression was also ugly. Let's wait and see for now. We can't be sure yet. Do you know anything about Master Guan? Will his judgment be accurate? Jun Hongcheng asked. Master Guan is an extremely famous master in the Piercing Wind City's Inscription Master Association. He is extremely knowledgeable about inscription techniques, and I'm afraid he wouldn't make a wrong judgment. Although Xiao Yanlong was unwilling to believe this, he still understood Guan Jingshan's strength very well. Hearing this, Jun Hongcheng's heart sank. It seemed that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou had made a mistake on this point. Originally, he was full of confidence that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would make a fool of themselves. But now, they had given Bailey Hongzhuang a chance to become famous. Just when everyone was guessing, Bailey Hongzhuang was drawing inscription patterns without any distracting thoughts. Actually, ever since she came to the upper realm, she had spent less time and energy on inscription techniques than before. However, she would still study it whenever she had time. These few days, she had already guessed that Xiao Sou would set a trap for her, so she had specially practiced. Chapter 5347. Very quickly, almost all of the inscription masters on the stage began to draw. Everyone's gaze was focused on it. The drawing process was undoubtedly the most attractive. Level 1 clear water inscription wasn't complicated to Bailey Hongzhuang. She held the inscription pen in her hand, and her movements were smooth and steady. Following that, a complicated blue inscription pattern was quietly formed on the inscription paper. A bright blue light flashed, and everyone understood that Bailey Hongzhuang had successfully drawn it. It was easy to judge whether the inscription pattern was successfully drawn because only a successful inscription pattern would be able to flash such a light. When everyone saw this scene, their eyes were filled with astonishment. The rumors are true. Bailey Hongzhuang is indeed very good at inscription techniques. Then why did Xiao Sou purposely announce all of this? To help Bailey Hongzhuang become famous? For what I see, she probably didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to really know inscription techniques. Look at her stiff face. Her expression has already revealed everything. At this moment, Xiao Seiwu really couldn't control her expression. She clearly saw that light just now. There was absolutely nothing wrong with her eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang actually succeeded in inscription. How is this possible? Xiao Sou felt that she was going crazy from jealousy. She had also tried to learn inscription techniques, but she had never succeeded. Bailey Hongzhuang was not only good at alchemy and medicine, she had also become a level 1 inscription master. She couldn't believe that all of this was real. How is this possible? How is it possible that she really knows how to do it? Xiao Sou anxiously looked at Jun Lingxuan. At this moment, she was truly at a loss. It wasn't easy for her to create such a big scene. It was all for the sake of embarrassing Bailey Hongzhuang in front of everyone. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang's announcement, almost everyone knew that this matter was related to her. If all of this instead helped Bailey Hongzhuang, then wouldn't she become a joke in everyone's eyes? Jun Lingxuan also couldn't understand. Previously, they didn't think that there was any problem. Why did Bailey Hongzhuang display such talent at this moment? In the next second, Jun Lingxuan turned to look at Guan Xian. Guan Xian, didn't you say that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't possibly know inscription techniques? Guan Xian was already stunned when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang successfully drawing the inscription pattern. After hearing Jun Lingxuan's question, he regained his senses. His pale face was filled with confusion and confusion. I don't know. Guan Xian panicked for a moment. He was shocked by the news. She came to our guild to look at related books, so she can't possibly be an inscription master. If she was an inscription master, then she could have seen many methods. Why did she have to do this? At this moment, Guan Xian was also confused. After connecting all the dots, he still felt that it was extremely strange. It didn't make sense at all. She couldn't have set up this trap from the start, right? Xiao Sou's fingers were intertwined and her brows were tightly knitted. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang agreed to take the assessment here, she felt that something wasn't right. At this moment, she finally understood that Bailey Hongzhuang had schemed against them again. Then what should we do now? Chapter 5348. After completing the inscription, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze quietly fell onto Xiao Sou's body. A dazzling smile appeared on her exquisite face, filled with arrogance and insufferably arrogance. This smile, in Xiao Sou's eyes, undoubtedly turned into mockery and flaunting, causing her to become even angrier. This damned Bailey Hongzhuang. She had purposely set a trap for them. Until this moment, when she recalled Bailey Hongzhuang's conflicted expression when she heard that the assessment would be held in the open-air plaza, she understood that all of this was just an act. Quickly look, Hongzhuang has already completed the inscription. An excited smile appeared on Shangwan Yingying's face. She was really worried that Xiao Sou and the other scheme would succeed. After all, no one could guarantee that the inscription would be 100% successful. But at this time, if Bailey Hongzhuang failed, Xiao Sou and the others would mercilessly ridicule her. So the only way was to complete the inscription successfully. Hongzhuang's ability is indeed unquestionable. When Xiren also revealed a comfortable smile. The previous process had even made him a little nervous. Mo Yunjue's eyes were deep. Look, Xiao Sou is already jumping up and down. Hearing this, everyone's gaze didn't turn away. Indeed, Xiao Sou's face was already flushed red. At this moment, it was obvious that she was at a loss of what to do. She was anxiously thinking of ideas with Jun Lingxuan. Di Xiaofeng was also full of joy. Xiao So made such a big move this time, but in the end, she went for wool and came back shorn. Instead, it allowed Hong Zhuang to be in the limelight. This is also a big blow to her reputation. Originally, they were invited to see how glorious and proud the Xiao family was, but they didn't expect to see Xiao So being ruthlessly slapped in the face. This was really a big gift for them. Bailey Hongzhuang has already succeeded. She seems to be the first to succeed. Liu Yuhai did not hide his appreciation for Bailey Hongzhuang. For this younger generation, he only felt that she was a rare genius. Her movements are very skillful. She must have practiced many times on a daily basis to be able to be so orderly. However, from another point of view, her temperament is also extremely stable and is not easily affected by the surrounding environment. Guan Jingshan nodded slightly, and his gaze landed on the other inscription master apprentices on the high platform. Compared to their usual performance, they were clearly a little flustered on the high platform that everyone was looking at. In a hurry, they made mistakes in a short while. With regards to this point, he could not help but sigh inwardly. The environment also had a certain influence on an inscription master. Especially in such an environment, everyone hoped to be able to better display their strength. However, it was precisely because they were anxious for success that led to failure. Looks like the failure rate for today's test isn't low. Hearing this, Liu Yuhai glanced at the performance of the other inscription masters on the stage and immediately understood. Everyone is still young, so they still need to train more. That's right, Guan Jingshan replied. When Di Yuzhua noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang had already succeeded, his heart was also extremely shocked. Chapter 53-49. Looking at Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongcheng's complicated expressions, Di Yuzhua felt a burst of joy in his heart. These two guys teamed up to laugh at him, but he didn't expect that the situation would turn out like this. Just thinking about it made him feel amused. Dong! Along with the dull sound of the bell, Guan Jingshan's voice also sounded. The assessment is over. As soon as he said this, there were a lot of failed inscriptions on the high platform. The failed inscriptionist apprentices looked at the ruined inscriptionist on the table, and their eyes dimmed. All of them hung their heads in dejection. They were extremely frustrated. As for the successful inscription masters, their faces were full of pride. First-grade inscription master and inscription apprentice. These were two completely different identities. Inscription apprentices could only be regarded as having a little understanding. Although they had the title of inscription master, in fact, they couldn't be considered as inscription masters. Naturally, they couldn't get the same respect as other inscription masters. However, once one became an inscription master, even if it was only first grade, the status was completely different. The inscription test was undoubtedly very simple. You could judge by looking at the specific luster. On the bulletin board at the side of the high platform, the names of the successful inscription masters suddenly appeared. Among them, Bailey Hongzhuang's name was the most dazzling, because she was the first inscription master to complete the assessment. Looking at this positive result, Xiao Sou's last hope was completely shattered. Bailey Hongzhuang actually became an inscription master. Guan Qian, it's all because of the good news you revealed. Xiao So looked at Guan Qian in exasperation. She only felt that she was about to explode. She really regretted that she didn't figure out the situation at that time and arrange this. She thought that Guan Qian was an inscription master, so he should be very clear about this aspect. Who would have thought that Guan Qian didn't understand the situation at all? Guan Qian's face was also very ugly. His young face was full of shock and doubt. He couldn't understand. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was an inscription master, why did she want to enter the library? This woman didn't do things according to common sense, so much so that such a big thing happened. Sister Sei Wu, I really didn't expect it to be like this. Guan Qian quickly explained. Xiao So frowned and looked at Guan Qian suspiciously. She stared at him for a long while until Guan Qian felt his hair stand on end. Only then did Xiao So say, Guan Qian, you couldn't have been bribed by Bailey Hongzhuang and joined forces with her to trick me, right? Hearing that, Guan Qian was slightly taken aback and hurriedly explained, "Big Sister Sei Wu, this is absolutely impossible. I've known you for so many years. Why would I deliberately trick you?" Seeing that Guan Qian's nervous explanation didn't seem to be fake, Xiao Shou retracted her gaze, but her expression was still extremely ugly. Di Yujia looked at Jun Hongcheng, who was pretending as if nothing had happened, and said indifferently, "Are you disappointed that you didn't see the scene you wanted to see?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Jun Hongcheng said coldly. Chapter 5350. Di Yujia, I'm not saying anything because I can't be bothered with you. It's not because I'm afraid of you. Don't go overboard with your words. Jun Hongcheng narrowed his eyes. His lowered voice was filled with threat and anger. After not seeing Di Yujia for a while, he felt that Di Yujia was becoming more and more arrogant. Even if you had the upper hand in the Divine Cloud secret realm, you shouldn't be so arrogant. You should know your limits. Hearing Jun Hongcheng's threatening words, Di Yujia smiled calmly. "Jun Hongcheng, why don't you think about how you were acting so smug in front of me when you're saying this? This whole thing had been a trap set up by you from the very beginning. Now that you've shot yourself in the foot, are you still going to blame me?" Di Yujia, as long as you don't have any evidence, don't spout nonsense. Xiao Yanlong spoke up as well. Actually, he was feeling very gloomy as well. Before they had arrived, Xiao Shou had solemnly vowed that there would be no problems with today's plan. However, after arriving, he realized that the situation was completely different from what Xiao Shou had said. Bailey Hongzhuang was not an expert in the art of inscription. On the contrary, she was extremely skilled in drawing first-level inscriptions. Based on her level of proficiency, it was clear that she had been in contact with the art of inscription for more than a day or two. Hearing Xiao Yanlong's words, Di Yujia glanced at him indifferently. As far as I know, Xiao Shou had wanted to become an inscription master in the past as well. However, she did not have the talent in this area. It seems that my daughter-in-law is even more outstanding. As soon as he had spoken, Di Yujia retracted his gaze. Now that he and Xiao Yanlong had become enemies, there was no need for him to hold back when he spoke. He had always been a person who respected others tenfold. Since the other party had set up such a trap for them, he would naturally show no mercy when he exposed them. Only by letting these fellows know the power of the D family would they have more scruples in the future. However, they had been lucky enough to have arrived. If they had not arrived, he would not know how his daughter-in-law and son would have been treated. Therefore, his heart was filled with anger. Di Yujue's words. Xiao Yanlong was at a loss for words. In the past, the two families had been on very good terms with each other, and Di Yujie had understood Xiao Shou's situation very well. Even if he wanted to explain that this was not the case, it was useless. On this point, Xiao Seiwu really couldn't compare with Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the crowd could not hear what Liu Jue and the other two were talking about, they could tell from the ugly expressions on Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongqing's faces that they must have been humiliated. This time, Patriarch Xiao and Patriarch Jun will lose face. That's right. They had put in so much effort to set up such a trap. In the end, it was all for naught. Instead, they were ridiculed by the D family's patriarch. Just thinking about it makes me feel sour. Now it seems that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun are indeed smarter than Xiao Shou. No wonder they were able to show off in the Immortal Cloud's secret territory and firmly suppress the Xiao and Jun family's teams. The situation was suddenly one-sided. Everyone had come here today to laugh at this joke. They did not care whether the other inscriptionists had passed the examination or not. However, everyone had thought that they were here today to see how Bailey Hongzhuang would be humiliated. They never thought that they would see Xiao Shou's face being swept to the ground. Chapter 53-51. Feeling the surrounding cultivators looking at her with eyes full of ridicule, Xiao Shou's complexion became abnormally ugly. She couldn't help but look at Jun Lingxuan. She was somewhat flustered as the situation was completely out of her expectations. For a moment, she didn't know how to end the situation. Lingxuan, what should we do now? If they didn't say anything, they were destined to be ridiculed by everyone. Jun Lingxuan was also somewhat flustered. This kind of situation was something they didn't expect. Therefore, they didn't prepare a way to deal with it. However, at this critical moment, he suddenly thought of an idea in the midst of the emergency. So, previously there was a rumor that Bailey Hongzhuang is a first-rate inscription genius. It's only a first-grade inscription master. That's nothing. Jun Lingxuan's complexion immediately calmed down. A trace of brilliance once again appeared in his eyes. Hearing Jun Lingxuan's words, Xiao Sou was slightly stunned. Then, a trace of a smile rose on her face. That's right. It's only a first-grade inscription master. That's nothing. A first-grade inscription master was only the entry level of an inscription master. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang succeeded, it couldn't be said that she was a genius that only exists in heaven and earth. Now, the first-grade inscription masters who pass the assessment, please step down from the high platform to receive your inscription master badge. The next assessment will be the second-grade inscription master. Guan Jingshan's face rippled with a kind and harmonious smile. His deep and resounding voice rang out from the high platform. Although he also understood that everyone came to watch today to see Bailey Hongzhuang's assessment, but since he had already prepared this, he naturally had to carry it through to the end. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also walked down from the high platform and went to receive her inscription master badge. Obtaining this thing also had a lot of benefits, just like the identity of the Alchemist Guild. In the future, if one wanted to buy inscription materials, it would undoubtedly be more convenient to buy them at the Alchemist Guild. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked down from the high platform, when she passed by Xiao Sou, she suddenly said, "Bailey Hongzhuang, don't be too complacent. You only passed the first-grade inscriptionist test. Previously, the news you released said that you are a first-rate inscription genius, but this kind of result doesn't seem to be enough, right?" The D-Clan's cultivators, who were originally cheering excitedly, were enraged when they saw Xiao Sou coming out to find trouble at such a time. "Xiao Seiwu, why are you stirring up trouble again?" Shangguan Yingying glared furiously at Xiao Sou. She had been extremely displeased with this fellow ever since they were in the immortal cloud mystic realm. Now, the longer she knew him, the more she hated him. "I'm just voicing my opinion, but you guys aren't allowing me to speak?" Xiao Sou's eyes were filled with ridicule. "Bailey Hongzhuang hasn't even said anything yet. Do you need to jump out in such a hurry? Everyone knows what's going on. Don't pretend to be innocent. Weren't you the one who planned this from the beginning to the end? Now you're actually trying to climb all over us. Are you done yet?" Shangguan Ying was not afraid of Xiao Sou at all. When it came to bickering, she had never been afraid of anyone. "Shangguan Ying, don't you dare spout nonsense again," Xiao Sou said angrily. A mere fellow from the lower realm dared to be so arrogant in front of her. Chapter 53-52. Hearing Shangguan Yingying's question, the members of the D family shook their heads. "That's right. You're absolutely right. Everyone was already filled with resentment towards Xiao Sou for setting up this Hongmen banquet. Now that this fellow's scheme had failed, he actually wanted to find fault with them. Naturally, they couldn't stand it any longer. Wasn't this bullying the D family? Looking at the D family's united front, Xiao Sou was so angry that she was speechless. Seeing this, Jun Lingxuan also spoke out. "What we said was the truth. The news that spread earlier had exaggerated your own achievements to the heavens. Now, the results of a first-grade inscriptionist are nothing. Then, according to young Master Jun, what kind of results would be considered acceptable for my wife?" Di Beichen stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His handsome face carried a trace of indifference. His voice was calm and unwavering, but one could faintly feel the pressure from it. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan paused and said, "In my opinion, she would have to at least be a second or third-grade inscriptionist." When these words were spoken, everyone present could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This Jun Lingxuan really knows how to talk. The moment he opens his mouth, he's already talking about a second or third-grade inscriptionist. This isn't something that can be achieved so easily. That's right. If Bailey Hongzhuang wholeheartedly studies inscriptions, then so be it. However, she has put more effort into alchemy and medical skills. In my opinion, inscriptions are only slightly dabbled in. To be able to become a first-grade inscriptionist is already amazing. To want to become a second-grade inscriptionist or even higher, isn't that too difficult? Xiao Sou and the others don't care too much. Their goal today is to embarrass Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't tell me they want her to be in the limelight. Just as everyone was complaining about the injustice for Bailey Hongzhuang's lips suddenly curled into an enchanting and playful smile. In that case, as long as I become a second or third-grade inscriptionist, you will obediently shut your mouths? Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang actually agreed, Xiao Sou's eyes revealed a trace of joy. Of course, the premise is that you have to have the ability. Bailey Hongzhuang took her first-grade inscriptionist badge from the side and continued, I never intended to just take the exam for a first-grade inscriptionist. Hearing these words, everyone present was stunned. They all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. They wondered if they had heard wrong. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions clearly told everyone that they hadn't heard wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flashed and directly walked up to the high platform. Now, the people standing on the high platform were all about to take the second-grade inscriptionist exam. When everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had also joined the team, they were all a little surprised. Is this true? Bailey Hongzhuang actually wants to take the second-grade inscriptionist exam? Looking at the situation, I'm afraid it's not fake. But isn't this too unbelievable? Not to mention the others. Even Daiheoan and the others were shocked when they saw this scene. Previously, when they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had passed the first-grade inscriptionist exam, they heaved a sigh of relief and felt that they were too lucky. But now the young mistress actually wanted to continue the exam. If she really passed the exam, then her strength and talent were too shocking. Chapter 53-53. Following Di Xiaofeng's words, Di Zhuai's and the rest looked at Di Beichen curiously. They were really looking forward to this result. Seeing this, Di Beichen chuckled. Since Hongzhuang dares to go up, what do you guys think? Everyone retracted their gazes. From Di Beichen's expression, they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's inscription technique was far more powerful than they had imagined. This time, Xiao Sou had really dug a hole and buried herself in it. However, they really wanted to see Xiao Sou's expression later. It would definitely be more interesting than now. When Guan Jingshan saw Bailey Hongzhuang appear on the stage again, his eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. According to Bailey Hongzhuang's previous performance, she shouldn't have been provoked by Xiao Sou. Could it be that she had profound attainments in inscription technique? President Liu, could it be that this Miss Bailey doesn't only dabble in inscription technique, but also has a deep understanding of it? Liu Yuhai subconsciously glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and shook his head. You should ask the Di family head about this. I only know that Bailey Hongzhuang is an inscription genius. As for other conveniences, I really don't know. When he said this, Guan Jingshan and Liu Yuhai's gazes fell on Di Yujue. They were really looking forward to Bailey Hongzhuang's performance. At the same time, although Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongsheng on the other side pretended to be indifferent on the surface, they were actually listening carefully. They also want to know what level Bailey Hongzhuang's inscription technique had reached. Di Yujue chuckled and said, Hongzhuang has always placed most of her energy on cultivation. She doesn't put much energy on inscription technique, so she rarely mentions it. All of us didn't know that she could reach this step with just a little understanding. It's probably because of interest. Hearing Di Yujue's casual words, Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongcheng were completely speechless. Because of interest? She could become a first-grade inscription master just by learning occasionally? If it was really like this, then there were so many inscription apprentices who couldn't become an inscription master after studying for so many years. Xiao Sou had tried all kinds of methods but still couldn't succeed. Were you trying to beat them to death? Would you die if you didn't boast? When Guan Jingshan heard this, he didn't have any doubts. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in alchemy and medicine and her interest in inscription technique. So that's how it is. It seems that Miss Bailey is really a first-rate genius. Liu Yuhai also nodded. This is an extremely difficult method in the eyes of ordinary people. When it comes to Bailey Hongzhuang, It seems to have become exceptionally simple. Very quickly, all the second-grade inscription masters appeared on the high platform. Compared to the first-grade inscription master examination, the number of inscription masters participating in the second-grade inscription master examination was greatly reduced. It was less than two-thirds of the previous examination. Bailey Hongzhuang still stood in her previous position and was as eye-catching as ever. The second-grade inscription master examination will now begin. Guan Jingshan stood up and announced, "The content of the examination is the second-grade inscription. As long as you successfully draw it within the stipulated time, you can pass." Everyone already knew the rules in their hearts, so Guan Jingshan didn't say anything and directly started the second-grade inscription master examination. Chapter 53-54. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang confidently and methodically beginning to produce the inscription liquid, Xiao So suddenly had a bad premonition in her heart. Bailey Hongzhuang agreed too calmly, as if she had already expected that they would have such an excuse. She didn't even have the slightest hesitation. She had already fallen into the trap once before. If this time she fell into the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, then she would really lose face. Ling Sun, I think Bailey Hongzhuang's performance is very strange. Xiao So frowned. As time gradually passed, the uneasiness in her heart continued to increase. Jun Lingxuan also had this feeling in his heart. Suddenly hearing Xiao Sou's words, his mood became even more complicated. This Bailey Hongzhuang is really too unpredictable. I don't understand how she can be so good at so many methods. As the young master of an aristocratic family, he had seen more than one or two genius cultivators, like Ouyang Jifeng, who was good at alchemy. There are also geniuses like him. However, one talent was understandable. Even if it was two talents, although rare, it was still acceptable. But again and again, except for Bailey Hongzhuang, he really hadn't seen anyone else. Xiao So also fell into silence. In the past, she had always looked down on people from the lower realm, but now, her performance really made them unable to say anything disdainful. If Bailey Hongzhuang really becomes a second-grade inscription master, then what should we do? Xiao So couldn't help but ask. Now she really didn't have any confidence in Bailey Hongzhuang's performance. Let's wait and see. Jun Lingxuan didn't speak. For this situation, he also didn't know what to do. His gaze quietly fell on Di Beichen's body. At this moment, he was really jealous of this lucky guy. On the high platform, Bailey Hongzhuang began to draw without any distractions. These inscriptions had been practiced thousands of times before. All the lines had long been memorized. The best way to increase the success rate of this inscription was to practice more. It was precisely because of this that she had spent a lot of time and energy, but she was also very satisfied with the results. With a flash of gray light, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped drawing again. Everyone looked at her calm and relaxed appearance, and their hearts became more and more emotional. She actually succeeded. Bailey Hongzhuang is really a second-grade inscription master. This is too surprising. I feel that this time, Xiao So really spent a lot of effort to give Bailey Hongzhuang a chance to become famous. However, Bailey Hongzhuang is probably very low-key. If it was an ordinary person, they would have already come for the examination when they were able to draw a first-grade inscription. Why would they wait until now? It was unknown who suddenly thought of this point, but instantly, everyone came to a realization. It seemed to be the case. Xiao So, who was already extremely depressed after hearing everyone's words, her face flushed red, and she hated that she couldn't spit out a mouthful of blood. This damn fellow, did he think that she wasn't angry enough? He actually sprinkled salt on her wound like this. The smile on Di Yujue's face became even more brilliant. On the other hand, Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongqing's expressions had already stiffened to a certain extent. Chapter 53-55. In the process of drawing the second-grade inscription pattern, Bailey Hongzhuang was still the first to succeed. It was because of her speed that the inscriptionists who were taking the test also felt a wave of pressure. Many of them were anxious to succeed under this pressure and failed. Just based on Hongzhuang's proficiency, her inscription technique is far beyond Xiao Sou's imagination. Shangguan Ying was now relaxed. She wasn't worried about Bailey Hongzhuang at all. On the contrary, she was most worried about Xiao Sou. The final result was as expected. Bailey Hongzhuang successfully obtained the second grade inscriptionist badge. Regarding this, the ashen-faced Xiao Sou didn't know what to say. If he had known earlier, he would have let it go. He wouldn't have fallen to such a state. However, before Xiao Sou could say anything, Bailey Hongzhuang took the initiative to say, "Don't worry, I will continue to take the third grade inscriptionist exam." Once these words were out, it was tantamount to throwing a heavy bomb in everyone's heart. Everyone couldn't help but be dumbfounded. They didn't dare to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang actually wanted to continue taking the test. Faced with the devastatingly beautiful face in front of her, Xiao Seiwu only wished that she could rush up and tear it apart. However, under such circumstances, he could only swallow his anger. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's best if you can pass the test. Otherwise, you'll make a fool of yourself." In this regard, Bailey Hongzhuang directly threw a disdainful look. It was impossible for her to let Xiao Seiwu get what she wanted. When everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to continue taking the third grade inscriptionist exam, they didn't know what to say to express their feelings. Not to mention the bystanders, even the inscriptionists who were taking the test were speechless. "Miss, you're not here to take the test. You're here to scare people, right?" If they were able to advance by one grade, they would be overjoyed. They had already rushed over to take the test. After all, advancing by one grade meant that one's identity and status were completely different. Bailey Hongzhuang, on the other hand, had clearly reached such a level, yet she had not come to take the test. Were you deliberately trying to hurt her? In comparison, these older people really felt their old faces turn red. Their temperament couldn't even compare to a young girl's. When everyone saw the flash of light again, they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had successfully drawn the third grade inscription pattern. The fourth grade inscriptionist examination begins. When Guan Jingshan saw that Bailey Hongzhuang still didn't show any signs of walking down the stage, he didn't know what to say. He had stayed in the Inscription Association for so many years, so he had naturally seen many inscription master geniuses. However, if one were to talk about whose assessment was so frightening, if Bailey Hongzhuang claimed to be second, no one would dare to claim to be first. Who didn't come for the assessment every time they broke through a level? Bailey Hongzhuang, on the other hand, didn't even take the test before. Now, she was taking the test all the way without any intention of stopping. He even felt that the fourth grade inscriptionist exam might not be the final test. Lu Yuhai's eyes shone brightly. Bailey Hongzhuang always amazes everyone with a single brilliant feat. Chapter 53-56. Hearing Lu Yuhai say that Bailey Hongzhuang was just as shocking, Guan Jingshan's mood calmed down a bit. At least he wasn't the only one in this situation. The juniors today were getting more and more shocking. It wasn't simple to be able to keep calm with this kind of ability. Guan Qian didn't know what to say at this moment. Bailey Hongzhuang brought too much shock. Now he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately came to the Inscription Association to tease him. Why would she go to the library with this kind of standard? Weren't the books in the library usually the simplest ones? Bailey Hongzhuang's inscription technique had already reached this level. It wasn't at the entry level at all. Reading those books was useless. She passed the fourth grade inscription master exam. She passed the fifth grade inscription master exam. The announcement had already shocked everyone to the point that they were numb. Could you be any more shocking? Young madam is too abnormal. We didn't even hear that she knew inscription techniques before. The D family's members were all amazed. Even if they were numb from the shock, this kind of feeling still made them feel very happy. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but pat Di Beichun's shoulder and said, "Beichun, don't let Hongzhuang keep a low profile in the future. Otherwise, when she suddenly shows her talent, it will completely shock us." Di Beichun chuckled. "Big brother, that depends on Hongzhuang's thoughts." The head of the D family, Bailey Hongzhuang, really hit it well. Lu Yuhai sighed and shook his head. Thinking back, he was worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would fall into Xiao Sou's trap. Now it seemed that he was worried for nothing. Xiao So was completely played by Bailey Hongzhuang. The smile on Du Jue's face was extremely bright. I didn't expect Hongzhuang's inscription technique to be so outstanding. It really surprised me. Listening to Du Jue's words, Jun Hongqing couldn't help but secretly snort. Who would believe this kind of words? There was no need to think to know that Du had already known about this situation long ago. It was just that he had deliberately pretended not to know earlier, and had even tricked him step by step. Of course, they did blame Du Jue for this because he didn't know that his daughter-in-law was so powerful. The ability that she showed before had already surprised them, and now, even he was amazed at how his daughter-in-law did all this. When Jun Hongqing saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had started the assessment, his face completely darkened. If he knew that it would be like this, he wouldn't come here today. Now, he couldn't leave even if he wanted to leave. This Bailey Hongzhuang is just pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. She's completely leading people into a ditch. Jun Hongqing lowered his voice. Now he could no longer look at Bailey Hongzhuang with the same indifferent attitude as before. This woman was now a well-known figure among the younger generation. If she was allowed to continue developing, she would definitely be extremely terrifying in the future. Don't think that these abilities were not cultivation. In fact, everyone knew that the appeal of a master was limitless. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had 3 identities, who could compare with her appeal in the future? Chapter 53-57. Xiao So didn't know how much time had passed. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang became a second-grade inscriptionist, she knew that she had lost again. She had lost completely. As Bailey Hongzhuang passed the exam again and again, she was no longer slapped in the face, but rather, her face had been slapped swollen. Wasn't it said that it was easy to make mistakes in the process of drawing inscriptions? Even if the inscriptionist had reached a certain level, there was a possibility of failure when drawing inscriptions. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had drawn so many inscriptions, and she hadn't failed even once. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was destined to be the winner, even if she failed, at least it would make her feel better. However, she didn't even give her the chance. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't continue until she passed the 6th grade inscriptionist test. In fact, no 6th grade inscriptionist planned to take the 7th grade inscriptionist test today. Seeing this scene, everyone was relieved. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't plan to take the 9th grade inscriptionist test in one go. All the rules seemed to have changed when it came to Bailey Hongzhuang. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked down the stage, Shenghuan Yingying went up to her and smiled. Hongzhuang, you finally finished the test. I'll take the test next time. Otherwise, I'm afraid that some people won't be able to take it. It won't be good if they faint. Shenghuan Yingying's voice was as pleasant as the sound of nature, but anyone could hear that she was mocking Xiao So. In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and looked at Xiao So, who had a pale face. She curled her lips into an extremely bright and evil smile. Xiao So, my results are worthy of your painstaking promotion, right? Her sharp gaze swept across Guan Qian, Jun Lingxuan, and finally landed on Xiao So's face. The thick ridicule made Xiao So and the other 2 infuriated. Their blood almost rushed to their heads. Recalling Bailey Hongzhuang's words, they really wanted to say that Bailey Hongzhuang had the ability to continue the test. They didn't believe that she really had such ability. However, when they thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's trick, they chose to remain silent. If Bailey Hongzhuang really became a 7th grade inscriptionist, how could they live? Therefore, Xiao So could only clench her teeth and swallow the words that she wanted to say back in her stomach. The previous rumors were true. Bailey Hongzhuang, to be able to become a 6th grade inscriptionist at her age, her innate talent in this area is already very shocking. Xiao So has really lost a lot of face this time. I feel that her face hurts. Everyone sighed. Originally, Xiao So was about to become the Holy Maiden of the Light and could be said to be limitless glory. However, she had to plot against Bailey Hongzhuang at this time. In the end, she created such a mess and even threw herself into it. In a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's limelight was unparalleled. Even Xiao Sou's limelight of becoming the Holy Maiden of the Light seemed to have been overshadowed by her. The inscriptionist test came to an end just like that. Everyone left with a heart full of sighs. Junhong Chung and Xiao Yanlong naturally left at the first moment. In fact, ever since Bailey Hongzhuang's first successful inscription, they were already sitting on pins and needles. It was only because of their face that they couldn't leave. Now that it had finally ended, if they still didn't leave, could it be that they were waiting for Di Yujue to ridicule them? Chapter 53-58. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest returned to their lodgings, everyone's faces were filled with pride. We've only just arrived at Piercing Wind City today, and we've already witnessed Hong Zhuang winning such a huge victory. This is really worth celebrating. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of smiles. Luckily, we've come to Piercing Wind City today. Otherwise, we would have missed out on such a good show. Hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, the cultivators of the Di family all agreed, today is really satisfying. The Jun family and the Xiao family have been trying to make us unhappy ever since they've joined forces. Today, we finally let them know that it's no big deal even if we cut off all ties with them. In my opinion, Xiao Sou can't even be compared to Hong Zhuang. Once these words were spoken, everyone resonated with them. On this point, their thoughts were surprisingly consistent. Xiao Sou can't even be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang. No matter how one looked at it, this was the case. Di Yujue saw that everyone's impression of Bailey Hongzhuang was so good, and there was a trace of smile in his eyes. If it were anyone else, it would have been difficult to gain everyone's approval based on their status. However, his daughter-in-law was obviously not an ordinary person, and this was all due to her own efforts. Compared to the Di family's current complacency, the Jun family and the Xiao family were covered in dark clouds. As the Jun family and the Xiao family had already confirmed their marriage, the Jun family had directly stayed at the Xiao family's residence when they arrived at Piercing Wind City. Along the way, everyone's face was gloomy and they didn't say a word. It was only when they reached their home that they gathered together. Bailey Hongzhuang is really too hateful. Just look at what she said today. I'm going to die from anger. After entering the house, Xiao Sou could no longer maintain her composure as she stomped her feet in anger. Just thinking about it made her feel like she was going to explode from anger, and she felt humiliated. As the Holy Maiden of a Light sect, she had never been treated like this. Xiao Yanlong looked at Xiao Sou, who could no longer hold back her emotions, and said in a deep voice, "You have indeed not understood this matter clearly," allowing them to take advantage of the loophole. After today's incident, no one will be able to suppress Bailey Hongzhuang's limelight for the time being. Junhong Qing's expression was grave. This was not good news for them. Originally, they thought that they could firmly suppress the Di family this time, but now they were being held back by the other party. We didn't expect this either. No one had ever said that Bailey Hongzhuang was talented in this area. Jun Lingxuan frowned. Before this, they had never heard of Bailey Hongzhuang's ability in this area. Even the people they had arranged in the Di family had never told them about this. Compared to Guan Xian's words, he actually believed the news from this person's mouth more. Since he did not say anything, it must mean that he did not. Who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Hearing Jun Lingxuan's words, Junhong Chung naturally understood what he meant. It seems that this Bailey Hongzhuang has hidden her abilities very well, even in the Di family. Perhaps she has always kept a low profile, but it is also possible that she is deliberately guarding against someone. Xiao Yanlong and Xiao Sou were completely unaware of the hidden meaning in their words. They were completely focused on this outcome. In a few days, my succession ceremony will be held. I'll let Bailey Hongzhuang be proud for a while. When the time comes, her limelight will not be able to compare to mine. Chapter 53-59. This was because even though Bailey Hongzhuang was a genius inscription master, she was not the only inscription master in the Inscription Association. However, there was only one Sacred Lady of the Light. In this aspect, Bailey Hongzhuang could not be compared to her at all. Hearing Xiao Sou's words, Xiao Yanlong and Junhong Chung looked at each other. That was the only thing they could do at the moment. A person's memory was very short. As long as a new piece of news was received, everyone would gradually forget about what had happened in the past. No matter how outstanding Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was today, everyone's focus would shift once Xiao So had succeeded as the sacred lady of the light. You must be more careful when you do things in the future. You can't make this kind of mistake again, Xiao Yanlong reminded. Xiao So nodded, and there was a trace of guilt in her expression. If it weren't for the fact that they hadn't inquired about the matter clearly before making a solemn vow, the two fathers wouldn't have accompanied them to Lu's face today. Father, I'll be more careful in the future. Me too. Jun Lingxuan chimed in as well. Looking at the apologetic looks on their faces, the gloominess in Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongcheng's hearts dissipated a little. In the face of their favorite child, even if she had made a huge mistake, they could not bear to be too harsh on her. Not long after Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her residence, she received an invitation from Guan Jingshan to go to the Inscription Association for a chat the next day. Master, that Guan Qian is obviously working with Xiao So to trick you. Now that his grandfather has invited you over, there won't be any problems, right? Even though Xiao So and the others did not manage to gain any advantage, Xiao He could not help but be filled with resentment when she thought about how Guan Qian had actually joined forces with Xiao So. Don't worry, Great Master Guan had no idea about this at all. Besides, based on his attitude, he's clearly a respectable elder. The grace of a drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. She would remember everything that Guan Jingshan had specially prepared for her to step down. Therefore, she had a good impression of Guan Jingshan. Today, I also noticed that Guan Qian was very guilty when he faced Master Guan. Presumably, Master Guan had already taught him a lesson when he went back. He probably asked you to go tomorrow to make Guan Qian apologize to you. Di Beichun smiled faintly. Previously, his father had also discussed this with him. Clearly, Guan Jingshan and Lu Yuhai were people who had the guild's best interests at heart, so they definitely wouldn't play any tricks in this matter. In fact, everything was just as Di Beichun had guessed. After Guan Jingshan returned, he called Guan Qian over and asked him to explain everything that had happened. Guan Qian was already very afraid of Guan Jingshan. Now, under Guan Jingshan's intimidation and interrogation, how could he dare to lie? Immediately, he told her everything in detail. You're saying that Bailey Hongzhuang came to our guild to read the books in the library? When Guan Jingshan heard this, he was also a little surprised. The books in the library did not have many records about inscription techniques. On the contrary, most of them recorded the development of inscription techniques until now. It was precisely because of this that not many people went to the library on a daily basis. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the Inscription Masters Guild at the agreed time. She had never thought of rejecting Guan Jingshan's invitation from the beginning to the end. Moreover, she believed that she would definitely gain a lot from chatting with this great master. Chapter 5360. When the attendants of the Inscription Association saw Bailey Hongzhuang again, they no longer had the disdain they had before. On the contrary, they were respectful, afraid that they would neglect Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking back to the disdain they had for Bailey Hongzhuang, they felt that it was too embarrassing. This was the true example of an expert hiding his strength and not revealing his true strength. Bailey Hongzhuang did not have any plans to fuss over this. Under the guidance of the attendants, she arrived outside Guan Jingshan's house. Miss Bailey, Master Guan is already waiting for you. At the same time, President Lu and Guan Qian from the Alchemist Association are also waiting for you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly and expressed her thanks before knocking on the door. Please come in. Guan Jingshan's kind and mellow voice rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang pushed open the door and entered. As expected, she saw Guan Jingshan and the others. Inscription Master Bailey, you're here. Guan Jingshan smiled. Please take a seat. Greetings to President Lu and Master Guan. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed. These two were her elders, so she had to be courteous. In terms of status, Lu Yuhai was the president of the Alchemist Association, while Guan Jingshan was only a master of the Piercing Wind City's Inscription Association. There was still a difference between their statuses. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's humble and courteous manner, the admiration in Liu Hai and Guan Jingshan's eyes became even stronger. How could they not like such a talented and courteous junior? Inscription Master Bailey, now that we know each other, I'll just call you Hongzhuang. How about that? Guan Jingshan smiled and said, Naturally, there's no problem. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I've already figured out what happened yesterday. It's all because my stinking brat was disobedient and caused such trouble. Guan Jingshan's smile revealed a trace of guilt. He then scolded Guan Qian. Why aren't you apologizing? Guan Qian walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His young face was filled with shame and awkwardness. No matter what, he was still a dignified man. Now, he had to apologize to a woman. Although this matter was indeed his fault, he still couldn't say it out loud. Everything that happened before was my fault. I hope you can forgive me. Guan Qian struggled to speak. Looking at Guan Qian's unwilling appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that this guy was completely forced by Guan Jingshan's tyranny to apologize to her. However, she did not take this matter to heart in the first place. Even if Guan Qian did not participate in this matter, Xiao Shou would still think of ways to deal with her. On the contrary, because of Guan Qian's participation, she was able to humiliate Xiao Shou. Guan Qian had played a part in this. Don't worry about it, young Master Guan. I didn't take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Guan Qian, who had his head lowered, was a little surprised. When he raised his head, he noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's extremely bright smile. His expression froze, and his cheeks actually blushed for no reason. Bailey Hongzhuang took a closer look. Only then did she realize that this Guan Qian had fair skin. He was actually a beautiful young man who was even more beautiful than a woman. After apologizing, Guan Qian said in a muffled voice, Grandfather, I'll take my leave first. Seeing this, Guan Jingshan also knew that Guan Qian wanted to leave because he was embarrassed, so he did not refuse. This guy still had the temperament of a young man. He had not truly grown up. It was already not easy for him to apologize. Hongzhuang, I heard that you came to the association first to look at the books in the library. Guan Jingshan asked. Chapter 53-61. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and admitted with a smile. Guan Jingshan was a little puzzled. With your inscription technique, I'm afraid the books in the library aren't useful to you. At Bailey Hongzhuang's level, she should already know the contents of the books in the library. This reason didn't make sense. If you want to take a look, you can take a look at it anytime now. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. To be honest, the reason why I want to take a look at the library is because I came from the lower realm. The inscription technique is also learned in the lower realm. I don't know much about the inscription technique in the upper realm. Originally, I came to the guild to find out more about it through meeting you. But after I came, I knew that you were very busy and it wouldn't be easy for you to find time to meet me. So, I want to take a look at the library. Now, after yesterday's assessment, I have a rough understanding of it. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Guan Jingshan and Liu Yuhai finally understood. Everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang came from the lower realm. Previously, they thought for a long time, but couldn't understand this problem. After Bailey Hongzhuang explained, the reason was actually so simple. I see. Guan Jingshan smiled. If you want to know more about the inscription technique in the upper realm, I can tell you. Then, I'll have to trouble Senior. It's no trouble. Even if it's an apology for what Guan Qian did, it's something that should be done. Immediately afterward, Guan Jingshan gave a general introduction of the development of the inscription technique in the upper realm. He also answered the questions raised by Bailey Hongzhuang in detail, so that the doubts in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart were all dispelled. Liu Yuhai sat at the side and said a few words from time to time. He didn't feel bored at all. Thank you, Senior, for your guidance. This junior has benefited a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands, and a happy and grateful smile appeared on her fair and beautiful face. This conversation was indeed of great help to her. Now, she had a better understanding of the inscription technique in the upper realm. It seemed like her judgment was right. The Chaos Ring was really a first-rate divine artifact. Even after ascending to the upper realm, he did not show the slightest bit of weakness. Actually, her inscription technique had always been learned in the Chaos Ring. So far, she hadn't met many inscription masters, so she didn't interact much. Sometimes, she couldn't even judge what level her inscription technique belonged to. But now, she understood that her inscription technique was equally outstanding even in the upper realm. This understanding undoubtedly made her extremely happy. Guan Jingshan was also very surprised by Bailey Hongzhuang's level. He had thought that there was a big gap between the lower realm's inscription technique and the upper realm's inscription technique, but he simply could not see this from Bailey Hongzhuang's inscription technique. During this exchange, he had also asked Bailey Hongzhuang some questions, so he wanted to understand Bailey Hongzhuang's true level. He even came up with some difficult questions to test Bailey Hongzhuang. Who would have thought that all these problems would be solved so easily in front of Bailey Hongzhuang? One had to know that even Guan Qian would have to ponder over these questions for a while. Chapter 5362. Regarding this point, both Guan Jingshan and Lu Yuhai sighed in their hearts. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang was not only outstanding in inscription technique, but also in alchemy. She was not inferior to any alchemist in the upper realm. Looking at the two sides, Bailey Hongzhuang did not deny it. Although the cultivators in the lower realm were not as strong as the upper realm, it was still the place where she had lived for many years. She had deep feelings for that place. Moreover, in her opinion, the reason why the cultivators in the lower realm were not as strong as the upper realm was because of the huge difference in cultivation resources between the two realms. If the lower realm also had such cultivation resources, its development would definitely not be weaker than the upper realm. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were chatting happily, a figure suddenly rushed into the room. Guan Jingshan, I have tried many times, but I can't draw this 7th level vibration rune successfully. I also don't know where the problem is. I have clearly prepared according to the materials recorded, but I don't know why there is a problem. I feel that it is not a problem when I draw it, but there's a problem with the inscription fluid itself. In his line of sight, he saw a woman wearing a green robe. Her age was similar to Guan Jingshan's, and her weathered face was filled with anxiety and impatience. It was as if she had not found an outlet to vent before, and as soon as she met Guan Jingshan, she completely exploded. Wang Xiangyu, can't you knock on the door when you come in? Don't you know that I might have a guest here? Guan Jingshan frowned, and his face was filled with helplessness. However, he still stood up and walked to Wang Xiangyu's side. Hearing this, Wang Xiangyu noticed that Lu Yuhai and Bailey Hongzhuang were also at the side. Her eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but she only faintly said, "Oh." Obviously, she did not feel guilty at all. "President Lu, I didn't expect you to be here too," Lu Yuhai said with a smile. "I just happened to be looking for Master want to talk about old times. You guys go ahead and chat." "Thank you very much." Wang Xiangyu turned her head naturally and looked at Guan Jingshan. "Tell me quickly, where could this problem of mine come from? I've thought for a long time, but I have no clue. Why did you think of studying the 7th class vibration pattern? Didn't I find an ancient book a while ago that recorded the inscription method of the 7th grade vibration pattern? So, I want to give it a try. If I can really figure it out, it will undoubtedly be of great help to our guild. It's just that I've been researching for a long time and tried all the steps that can be modified, but in the end, I still haven't figured out what the problem is. Quickly help me think about it. Then tell me the situation in detail." Hongzhuang, this is the other inscription master of the Inscription Guild, Master Wang. Lu Yuhai saw that the other two were chatting enthusiastically. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to take care of them for the time being, so he introduced them to Bailey Hongzhuang. Master Wang has always been engrossed in studying inscription patterns, so most of the time he appears in this kind of situation. If you see it more often, you won't find it strange. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. From a moment Wang Xiangyu walked in and noticed her unruly hairstyle, she had already guessed who she was. Chapter 5363. However, this kind of thing was very common among inscription masters. If there were no such inscription masters who were undistracted and devoted to research, the inscription association would not have developed to such a scale today. She also admired such inscription masters very much. Back then, the reason why her father's medical skills were so exquisite was also because of this. In the eyes of many people, her father was completely crazy and paranoid, but she understood that it was because of her father's seriousness and persistence. If not, her father's medical skills would not have reached such a level. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's unsurprised look, Lu Yuhai thought for a moment and laughed. I almost forgot that you are also an inscription master. The materials are indeed what you said. There should be no problem. Guan Jingshan looked thoughtful. He had also studied the 7th grade vibration pattern for a while. However, because he had been busy, he did not study it too deeply. Now that Wang Xiangyu mentioned it, he understood that there were so many problems. Yes, I have done many studies on the dosage, but I still can't find the problem. Wang Xiangyu looked helpless. During this period, she had put all her energy into studying the 7th grade vibration pattern. In fact, she knew that since the 7th grade vibration pattern inscription method appeared, not only her, but many inscription masters were studying it at the same time. If she could be the first to study it, it would undoubtedly be very helpful to her reputation. This was one of the reasons why she had been working so hard recently. She did not know if other inscription masters had encountered the same situation. In short, she was extremely annoyed that she had not gained anything after studying for so long. Listening to Wang Xiangyu's various situations, Guan Jingshan could not find a clue for a while. According to our research, there is indeed no problem with the materials, and the inscription can also be drawn. The problem must be the dosage. Guan Jingshan thought and said, in these days, I have tried every possibility, but in the end, it still did not work. Bailey Hongzhuang at the side listened to the conversation between Guan Jingshan and Wang Xiangyu and suddenly understood. She also had some understanding of the 7th grade vibration pattern. Looking at the situation, Guan Jingshan and the others only understood the materials needed for the inscription fluid, but they were not clear about the dosage, so they fell into such a dilemma. Just when the two of them were thinking and could not figure out the problem, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly sounded. Master Wang, have you tried adding green vine juice? Hearing the sudden voice, Wang Xiangyu could not help but be stunned and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with some surprise. Previously, she only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was a junior brought by Lu Yuhai, so she did not take it to heart. She did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly say such words at this moment, which meant that she was also an inscription master, and her level was not low. Otherwise, even if she was an inscription master, she wouldn't have mentioned green vine juice. You are. Wang Xiangyu pondered for a moment. Let me introduce to you. This is of Bailey Hongzhuang, right? Chapter 5364. You know about it? Guan Jingshan was surprised. Wang Xiangyu nodded. Of course, what happened yesterday has spread like wildfire. Who in the entire Piercing Wind City doesn't know about it? Guan Jingshan glanced at Wang Xiangyu indifferently. His expression was obviously saying that she was such a person. Ahem. Wang Xiangyu coughed twice. I didn't expect Miss Bailey to become a 6th grade inscriptionist at such a young age. You have unlimited potential in the future. Master Wang, you flatter me. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and cupped her hands. Wang Xiangyu then returned to the main topic. Adding green vine juice can indeed make the inscription liquid more stable. However, after I added it, the inscription liquid lost its vitality and became like a pool of stagnant water. This was the problem that troubled her the most. If she didn't add green vine juice, the inscription liquid would be too violent and unable to inscribe. However, after adding green vine juice, the inscription liquid would lose its vitality. According to her judgment, this was probably the biggest problem. However, no matter how she tried, she didn't succeed in the end. Can't you reduce the proportion of green vine juice to the maximum? Guan Jingshan asked. Based on Wang Xiangyu's question, this was the best solution. Wang Xiangyu shook her head. If this method is really effective, I would have succeeded long ago. I have already reduced the proportion to the minimum, but it still doesn't work. Hearing this, Guan Jingshan frowned. In that case, this is indeed a headache. Until now, I haven't heard of anyone from the other inscription associations drawing Kai Hung. I'm afraid everyone has encountered the same problem. Lu Yuhai, who was standing to the side, looked at the frown on their faces and decided not to say anything. This kind of problem must be found at the root. Usually, when they were studying alchemy, they were also in the same situation. Looking at the two masters in deep thought, Bailey Hongzhuang's sweet voice quietly rang out. Master Wang, how about you try adding 10 years old green vine juice? Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Wang Xiangyu and Guan Jingshan were stunned. Then, they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a trace of surprise. That's right. Why didn't I think of this problem? Wang Xiangyu clapped her hands excitedly, as if she had found a breakthrough. I was only thinking about reducing the quantity, but I forgot that I could also reduce the year. The effect of the 10-year green vine juice is naturally much weaker than the 100-year green vine juice. In this way, this problem may be solved. A smile appeared on Guan Jingshan's face. He hadn't thought of this either. As an inscription master, the materials they usually used were of the best quality. 10 years old materials were simply not within their scope of consideration. Therefore, they were used to not thinking in this direction. After Bailey Hongzhuang's reminder, he lamented that they had never thought of such a simple problem. Hongzhuang, you've really reminded us. Guan Jingshan said happily. Wang Xiangyu also nodded repeatedly. If it's really possible, then you've really helped us a lot. I'm just saying, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Guan Jingshan, let me borrow your inscription room. I can't wait to try my hand at drawing. Chapter 5365. Without waiting for Guan Jingshan's consent, Wang Xiangyu directly walked into the inscription room that belonged to Guan Jingshan. From her familiarity with the place, one could tell that it wasn't the first time she had been there. Looking at Wang Xiangyu's anxious appearance, Guan Jingshan was also helpless. He turned to Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "She is such an impatient person. If she says the wind is the rain, it will rain. Get used to it." Master Wang also hopes to be able to draw the 7th grade vibration rune as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression showed that she understood. It seemed that these two masters were very familiar with each other. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so casual. Guan Jingshan smiled awkwardly. He had already said many times about Wang Xiangyu's temper, but it was useless. This fellow always went in one ear and out the other. It was the same whether he said it or not. President Liu, Hongzhuang, are you interested in watching us try to draw the 7th grade vibration rune? Guan Jingshan looked at Wang Xiangyu, who had already started to get busy in the room. He retracted his gaze and said to Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Yuhai looked at each other and then said with a smile, "Of course. It's our honor." She actually had some understanding of the 7th grade vibration rune. She had already come into contact with it when she was in the Chaos Ring. However, Guan Jingshan invited her to watch with him at this time. Obviously, he didn't treat her as an outsider. She naturally wouldn't refuse. When Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the inscription room, Wang Xiangyu had already prepared all the materials. Just from the materials that had already been ground, one could tell that Wang Xiangyu had already prepared before coming. Today, she came here to find Guan Jingshan to try to draw the 7th grade vibration rune together. Wang Xiangyu didn't find it strange when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Yuhai following her in. She started to make the inscription fluid while introducing them. Guan Jingshan, go and get some 10-year green vine. I have already ordered someone to get it. Guan Jingshan had already expected such a situation. While he was speaking, Guan Qian had already walked in. Grandpa, here's the 10-year ivy you wanted. Guan Qian's eyes were filled with confusion as he handed the 10-year green vine to Guan Jingshan. It was as if he couldn't understand why his grandfather would want it for no reason. Generally speaking, the things his grandfather wanted were at least 100 years old. When he heard that his grandfather wanted a 10-year green vine, he was stunned for a moment, wondering if he had heard wrongly. However, after his grandfather's emphasis and affirmation, he finally understood that he did not hear wrongly. Guan Jingshan took the 10-year green vine and walked to the table. He began to grind the juice. Looking at Guan Qian, who was standing aside in a daze, he said, "We are now trying to draw the 7th grade vibration pattern. You should take a look too." Hearing this, Guan Qian was surprised. 7th grade vibration rune. He had heard his grandfather mention this inscription pattern a few days ago. This was an extremely powerful inscription pattern. However, because it had been lost for a long time, although everyone had mastered the method of drawing it, no one had succeeded yet. He didn't expect his grandfather to choose this time to study it. However, when he noticed that Wang Xiangyu had already started to add the materials to make the inscription fluid, he understood. Thinking about it, this idea must have been suggested by Wang Xiangyu first. Otherwise, his grandfather wouldn't try to draw the inscription pattern at this time. Chapter 5366. Bailey Hongzhuang knew that Guan Qian, who had just apologized to her, would feel awkward when facing her again. Thus, she only nodded her head slightly and placed her attention on Wang Xiangyu and Guan Jingshan. When she looked, she realized that the two of them had great chemistry with each other. At this moment, Wang Xiangyu was the one in charge of making the inscription fluid. Every time she needed to add a material, Guan Jingshan would take the initiative to pass the material over, and Wang Xiangyu would add in turn. The 7th grade inscription fluid required a lot of materials. Although it seemed like a simple process, in reality, there couldn't be any problems with the time, heat, and order. However, the two of them had the demeanor of a master. Their calm and composed appearance made it seem like they had been through countless trials and tribulations. Thus, when something difficult fell into their hands, it seemed like it was as simple as the clouds and wind. Although Bailey Hongzhuang had the primordial chaos ring, she already had the best teacher, but she still gained a lot from watching the master's inscription. Their every action was accumulated from years of experience. Some of the subtle techniques were often the essence. Thus, Bailey Hongzhuang watched very seriously. Liu Yuhai clearly didn't understand the inscription technique. However, he didn't feel that this process was boring. As the president, his temperament was far from ordinary people. Of course, he had known Guan Jingshan for many years and naturally understood the process very well. After a short moment of awkwardness, Guan Qian came back to his senses. The 7th grade inscription wasn't simple. This kind of viewing opportunity was undoubtedly very helpful for an inscription master of his level. The reason why his grandfather let him stay here was to let him learn. Very quickly, Guan Jingshan had already prepared the green vine juice. When Wang Xiangyu needed it, he immediately passed it over. Looking at the green vine juice in her hand, Wang Xiangyu took a deep breath. Whether or not it would succeed would depend on the effect of the green vine juice. Not only Wang Xiangyu, but everyone present was also very nervous. This was the most crucial step. If it didn't succeed, then they would have to start all over again. Among everyone, only Bailey Hongzhuang was relatively calm. This was because she understood the effect of the green vine juice. Logically speaking, this method should work. After Wang Xiangyu added the green vine juice, everyone's eyes were locked onto the furnace. They wanted to know the reaction of the inscription liquid. Wang Xiangyu couldn't help but sigh when she saw the originally violent inscription liquid suddenly become silent. Disappointment appeared in her eyes. After thinking about it for so long, he finally locked onto this possibility with great difficulty. Who would have thought that he would still fail in the end? Guan Jingshan also sighed. He never thought that it would end up like this. "Looks like I failed again." Just as Wang Xiangyu was about to close the furnace, suddenly, Guan Jingshan's voice sounded, "Wait." Listening to the sudden sound, everyone subconsciously looked at the furnace. The originally silent inscription liquid suddenly regained some vitality, but it was undoubtedly much more stable than the initial violent inscription liquid. Noticing this, Wang Xiangyu's face suddenly revealed a look of surprise. Success. This is a success. Chapter 5367. As an inscription master, even if she had never seen a true 7th grade inscription fluid, she could still judge the result from the general situation. At least, the inscription fluid in front of her was better than the one she had made before. It was more in line with the real situation. Seeing this scene, everyone let out a sigh of relief and revealed a joyful expression. Wang Xiangyu turned her head and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey is really a genius. I've been thinking about this problem for so long, but I couldn't think of a solution. You only heard it once, and you were able to think of a solution. Your future achievements will not be low. Compared to Wang Xiangyu's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang before, there was no doubt that she had a trace of admiration and sincerity. Previously, after hearing the news yesterday, she was rather amazed at Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. However, after summarizing it, she knew that this was just a trick between Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Shou. Originally, she thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was also a proud young person. However, from the current performance, it was clearly different from what she had imagined. The most important thing was that Bailey Hongzhuang was able to solve the problem that she couldn't think of. This was a huge help. Guan Jingshan smiled and nodded. Hongzhuang's talent is indeed outstanding. She has such a comprehension ability at such a young age. I also feel that her future achievements will not be simple. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang's current achievements were already very impressive. At this age, whether it was the inscription pattern technique, medical skills, or alchemy, she was so outstanding. If it was someone else, as long as they could reach this level at this age, they would be called a genius, not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang, who had all three. When Guan Xian heard that this problem was actually solved by Bailey Hongzhuang, he was also shocked. This was a 7th grade inscription. Bailey Hongzhuang was only a 6th grade inscription master. She was actually able to deal with a 7th grade inscription. This ability was simply too shocking. Master Wang, in fact, I just thought it through and blurted it out. It can only be considered as a mistake. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Of course, she wouldn't say that she already knew how to draw the 7th level vibration pattern, so she knew where the problem was as soon as she heard it. Otherwise, the two masters would definitely use her for research. After all, a young man from the lower dimensions was actually aware of such a long-lost inscription, and that was truly too shocking. After successfully creating the inscription fluid, Wang Xiangyu began to try to draw it. Creating the inscription liquid was an extremely important step, but whether or not it could be drawn successfully depended on one's own ability. Even if she had been studying the inscription pattern for a long time, she still couldn't guarantee that she could draw it successfully. As expected, the first inscription failed. Seeing this, Wang Xiangyu's expression was very calm, as if everything was within her expectations. Then, she began to draw the second one. At the same time, Guan Jingshan also began to try to draw the inscription pattern. The two of them got busy together. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two maintained their previous posture as they watched the two of them draw the inscription pattern. The method of drawing the 7th level vibration pattern has been lost for many years. A few days ago, they obtained the method from a relic. If they want to draw it successfully, I'm afraid it will take a lot of effort. Lu Yuhai looked at the two of them who were concentrating and quietly said, Chapter 5368. Of course, no one had ever succeeded in drawing this inscription pattern before, so it would take a lot of time when trying to draw it. It couldn't be completed in a short time. Even she, who had been learning from the seniors in the Chaos Ring for a long time, had to go through many failures before finally succeeding. The higher the level of the inscription pattern, the more complicated the pattern was. There were many overlapping inscriptions, like a maze, and one had to find the line to draw. At the same time, there couldn't be any mistakes during the drawing. As long as there was a pause or something else, it would lead to the failure of the inscription pattern. In fact, the situation was just as the two of them expected. They had drawn several inscriptions in a row, but all of them ended in failure. Guan Jingshan sighed faintly. Even if the inscription liquid was successfully made, it would still take some time for them to completely draw the 7th grade oscillation pattern. Thinking of Lu Yuhai and Bailey Hongzhuang, who were still waiting, he stopped the movement of his hands. As for the 7th grade oscillation pattern, it wouldn't be too late to draw it later. It wasn't good to let them wait like this. It's unlikely to draw the 7th grade oscillation pattern today. Let's go out and have some tea first, Guan Jingshan said with a smile. Lu Yuhai smiled. With your ability, it's only a matter of time before you succeed. I hope so, Guan Jingshan sighed, but his vicissitude and kind face was full of confidence. When Guan Jingshan stopped, Wang Xiangyu failed once again. This time, she didn't continue to try, but walked out and sat down. You're not going to continue drawing? Seeing Wang Xiangyu's action, Guan Jingshan was a little surprised. In this aspect, Wang Xiangyu had always been like a demon, and it was impossible for her to stop at this time. Therefore, at this moment, he only felt that the sun rose from the west. No, Wang Xiangyu waved her hand. It's okay to draw it later, but it can't be late to recruit talents. As she spoke, Wang Xiangyu's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, with a strong interest and appreciation, but also a trace of determination. Feeling Wang Xiangyu's naked gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a burst of uneasiness. As Wang Xiangyu's voice fell, Guan Jingshan immediately understood what she meant. At this time, Liu Yuhai took the lead and said, "It seems that Master Wang is preparing to snatch people in front of me." Wang Xiangyu was slightly taken aback. "What do you mean? When did Bailey Hongzhuang have anything to do with you?" "Hongzhuang is a deacon of our alchemist guild. You're also an alchemist." Wang Xiangyu was surprised. She really didn't know much about this. Previously, she had only heard about Bailey Hongzhuang from people talking about what had happened yesterday. She did not know much about the rest. "Yes," Bailey Hongzhuang replied. However, Wang Xiangyu didn't mind in the slightest and said, "That's fine as well. The Alchemist Association is the Alchemist Association, and we're the Inscription Masters Association. There's no difference between the two. Since Hongzhuang is a deacon of your Alchemist Association, then I won't say anything else. How about letting her become a deacon of our Inscription Association?" Chapter 53-69. If she could become a deacon of the guild, there would undoubtedly be a lot of convenience. Although she had entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm directly after becoming a deacon of the Alchemist Guild, she did not have much time to go to the Alchemist Guild after returning. But long ago, she had already known the convenience of becoming a deacon of the Alchemist Guild. At least it would be more convenient in terms of purchasing medicinal herbs and so on. If she wanted to purchase a better alchemy furnace, she only needed to spend her own points. Not only that, if someone needed the same kind of medicinal herb as her, the deacon would have priority to get it. Although this didn't seem to play a big role, once a rare medicinal herb was needed, this convenience would also be reflected. Although she didn't know the situation of the Inscription Association, she could roughly guess that it shouldn't be too different. However, she was now a deacon of the Alchemist Guild, so this point still depended on Liu Yuhai's attitude. Liu Yuhai looked at Wang Xiangyu, who didn't restrain herself in front of him, and couldn't help but chuckle. "I knew your character was still like this. Since you know, then you shouldn't stop me." Wang Xiangyu's face was full of smiles. Obviously, she already had a card up her sleeve. She would never give up such a talent. Moreover, she and Liu Yuhai had known each other for a long time, so she believed that he still had some face. "Then I have to be able to stop you first." Liu Yuhai laughed involuntarily and turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. "Becoming a deacon of the Inscription Association will also be of great help to you. If there is no problem, then agree." For talent like Bailey Hongzhuang, he undoubtedly appreciated it very much. Bailey Hongzhuang could help Wang Xiangyu solve such a problem by just casually mentioning it before. Even if Wang Xiangyu didn't recruit her to the Inscription Association today, she would eventually think of other ways to recruit her. In this case, he might as well do her a favor at little cost. Of course, he also appreciated Bailey Hongzhuang and hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would have a better development. As Liu Yuhai's voice fell, Wang Xiangyu and the others' gazes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. "Hongzhuang, after you become a deacon of our Inscription Association, you will have a certain amount of power. You will be able to participate in many matters of the Inscription Association, and you will also be able to carry out punishments. Of course, the most important thing is that you can get a lot of materials at the lowest price, and there will be a certain amount of points issued every month. You can use the points to exchange for the materials or inscriptions you need." Guan Jingshan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. In fact, he had already thought of recruiting her. However, before they could talk about this issue, Wang Xiangyu had already arrived. However, the final result was still the same. Listening to this treatment, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. Sure enough, the treatment of the deacons of the major guilds was about the same. An additional identity meant an additional layer of protection. She didn't know when she would need it in the future, so she didn't mind. Then I thanked the two masters. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang nod in agreement, Guan Jingshan and Wang Xiangyu's faces revealed a smile. Such a talent would sooner or later emerge. Now that she was recruited by their piercing Wind City's Inscription Association, it would be their glory in the future. Chapter 5370. Soon, the Inscription Association announced that Bailey Hongzhuang had become a deacon. In the blink of an eye, the news spread like wildfire and quickly spread throughout the entire piercing Wind City. Bailey Hongzhuang is really amazing. I remember that she had already become a deacon of the Alchemist Association, and now she has another identity. In the future, if anyone wants to touch her, they will have to think twice. With her ability, it is expected that she would become a deacon. Such a young 6th grade inscription master, her future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. Furthermore, her identity is not low. If Xiao Sou did not have the identity of the Holy Maiden, she would not be comparable to Bailey Hongzhuang. At that time, everyone felt that the D family's choice was too strange. Now it seems that their choice was not bad. Now, no one would say that the D family's choice to give up Xiao Sou was stupid. It was just that everyone had their own preferences. You said that everyone is saying that there are very few people in the younger generation who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Bailey Hongzhuang. When Xiao Sou heard the maid's words, her pretty face was filled with displeasure and jealousy. Usually, these words were used to describe her, but now they were used on Bailey Hongzhuang. It was simply hateful. Looking at Xiao Sou's ferocious expression, the maid nodded her head. She was afraid that her actions would provoke Xiao Sou's anger. Deacon status? Xiao Sou snorted. The Inscription Association really thinks highly of her. She is only a 6th grade inscription master. What qualifications does she have to become a deacon? When Jun Lingxuan walked into the room, he saw Xiao Sou's furious look. He waved his hand to signal the maid to leave and said, "So this time, Bailey Hongzhuang has been in the limelight in the assessment. The Inscription Association's actions are actually within our expectations. You don't have to take it to heart. I really hate Bailey Hongzhuang. Ever since she appeared, everything has been going wrong for me." Xiao Sou's face was filled with resentment. Ever since she had awakened the light attribute, no one had dared to treat her like this. Of course, there were many outstanding women, but as soon as she appeared, the light of others would be instantly overshadowed by her. Until the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, a woman whom she had never taken seriously, was now shocking everyone again and again. This was what she couldn't accept the most. Next year will be the day you become the saintess of the light. All the bad things will stop for today. After tomorrow, no one will be able to take away your glory. Jun Lingxuan had a charming smile on his face. He was confident that as long as Xiao Sou became the saint of light, all other problems would be solved. The saintess of the light was the symbol of the light sacred assembly. A mere deacon couldn't be compared with the saintess of the light. Hearing this, Xiao Sou's complexion became better. She smiled and said, "That's right. Tomorrow I will finally become the saintess of the light. At that time, the people of the D family will come." Jun Lingxuan raised his eyebrows. The ridicule and complacency in his handsome eyes had already revealed everything he was thinking. Then today, I will let Bailey Hongzhuang be complacent. In any case, she will soon lose interest in these things. Chapter 5371. The next day, the sun shone brightly and the sky was clear and beautiful. Today's weather is so good. It seems that even the heavens know that today is the day that our Sou will succeed the position of the Saint of Light. Madame Zhao's face was filled with joy as she looked at the beautiful Xiao Sou in front of her. She was so satisfied that the corners of her mouth almost reached the back of her ears. Ever since she found out that Xiao Sou had an unparalleled talent in the light attribute, She had been looking forward to this day. After waiting for so many years, it was finally here. It was hard to describe how wonderful this feeling was. The entire Xiao family was filled with jubilation at this moment. Xiao Shou had become the Saint of Light, and this was the Xiao family's greatest glory. The crowd of cultivators were looking forward to the succession ceremony that would be held in the piercing Wind City later on. They had been looking forward to that scene for a long time. When the time comes, they would receive the envious gazes of cultivators from various large forces. Even if they were not the ones who would become the Saint of Light, they would still share the glory. That's natural. We, have always received preferential treatment from the heavens. Xiao Yanlong looked at Xiao Shou with satisfaction. He had always been very satisfied with this daughter of his. She was his pride. Tong Yunshu had also rushed over early in the morning. After waiting for so long, Xiao Shou had finally become the Saint of Light. Seeing Tong Yunshu's appearance, Xiao Shou's fair face immediately lit up with a joyful and affectionate smile. She stood up and walked over to greet her. "Master, you're here. So, you're just too beautiful today." Tong Yunshu praised from the bottom of her heart. Xiao Shou smiled with a hint of bashfulness and shyness. "From today onwards, you're the Saint of Light. From now on, you have to pay attention to your identity no matter where you go. You can't cause any trouble." Hearing this, Xiao Shou felt guilty. "Master, I've implicated you in the previous incident." "Silly girl, there's no need to talk about implicating between us." Tong Yunshu's smile remained. "Don't take the previous incident to heart. You were only reprimanded by the president. It's no big deal." "Master, I won't let you suffer any grievances in the future." Xiao Shou looked at Tong Yunshu seriously, her clear and bright eyes filled with determination. It was all thanks to her master's help that she was able to get to where she was today. Otherwise, she would not have become the Saint of Light. "It's good that you have this kind of heart, but what Master wants most is to see you happy." "Of course I am. Mrs. Xiao, you help Sei Wu prepare first. I'll go outside and see if there's anything I need." Tong Yunshu had known the Xiao clan for many years, and she was also Xiao Shou's master. Both sides were already very familiar with each other, so she was extremely casual. "All right." After Tong Yunshu noticed that everything was ready, she sat down on the stone bench and looked at the festive scene of the Xiao clan. It was even livelier than a festival. Logically speaking, she should be very happy at such a moment. After all, they had been waiting for this day for too long. However, for some reason, she had a bad premonition in her heart, as if something was going to happen. However, no matter how she thought about it, she couldn't think of anything that could happen today. Chapter 53:72. "Master, what are you thinking about? Why do you look so unhappy?" Xiao Shou frowned. Could it be that the previous matter was not so simple? Did President punish you? As far as Xiao Shou was concerned, Tong Yunshu was her closest kin. Ever since her light attribute talent was discovered, she had been cultivating with Tong Yunshu, and it could be said that the time she spent with Tong Yunshu was much longer than her parents, so their relationship was naturally very deep. Seeing Xiao Shou so nervous that she could not wait to find President Liu to reason with him, Tong Yunshu hurriedly waved her hand. "So, things are not what you think." "Then what is it?" Xiao Shou patiently asked. "Master, could it be that there are still misgivings between you and me? If that is really the case, then it really hurts me." Seeing this, Tong Yunshu looked deeply at Xiao Shou, and her heart instantly softened. "So, it is not that Master is not willing to tell you, but I do not want to affect your mood." Tong Yunshu was actually very helpless, as she did not know why she would have such a premonition on such a joyous day. "Master, just say it." Tong Yunshu hesitated for a moment, but still said, "I do not know why, but I feel that something might happen today." Hearing this, Xiao Shou's expression slightly paused before she suddenly smiled. "Master, so this is what you're talking about. Don't worry, what could happen on such a day? The Piercing Wind City is the headquarters of the Holy Light Assembly, and if someone dares to cause trouble at this time, wouldn't they be seeking their own death?" Xiao Shou's expression was calm. If it was before, she was indeed worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would snatch her position. But now, she was not worried at all. She was the one who had truly lit up the holy maiden crystal. From a moment the saint's crystal was lit up, she could no longer feel any threat. Aren't you worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would do something? Looking at Xiao Sou's solemn expression, Tong Yunshu's mood relaxed a little. In fact, she also felt that her worries were completely unreasonable. At a time like this, what else can she do? Xiao Sou raised her eyebrows. She has been in the limelight for the past few days, and from today onwards, she will not be able to continue to be arrogant in front of me. Once she became the Holy Maiden of Light, even if she was still young, her position would be extraordinary. If Bailey Hongzhuang dared to treat her with the Holy Light Assembly's guards to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, even if it was Di Beichun, he would not be able to protect her. Master, master, master. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had also woken up early. Today is the day that Xiao Sou will succeed the position of the Holy Maiden of Light. 2 days ago, the people of the Holy Light Assembly were already busy. This time, the battle array is unprecedentedly huge. Di Xiaofeng's lips curled into a cold smile. If it was someone else who succeeded the position of the Holy Maiden of Light, perhaps he would sincerely congratulate them. However, it was Xiao Sou, and he hated that he could not meet with any problems halfway. Chapter 53-73. Just thinking about it shows how proud Xiao Sou is right now. Shangguan Yingying pursed her lips. She really didn't like Xiao Sou. How could someone like her have the right to become the Saint of Light? How unreasonable. However, her gaze subconsciously fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang. She knew that Hongzhuang was going to make her move today. This was going to be an exciting show. As long as Hongzhuang was able to snatch the position of the Saint of Light, she felt that the scene would be very interesting. Bitches will be punished by the heavens. Don't worry about it. When Xiren smiled faintly, not everyone in the Di family knew about this. Apart from them, only Di Yujue and Di Xiaofeng knew about it. The reason for this was naturally to prevent spies from leaking the secret. If Xiao Sou and the others were prepared, then today's matter would not be so easy to proceed. Hence, even now, they were still pretending that they didn't know anything. The cultivators from the Di family were also unwilling to accept this. In the past, they had been looking forward to Xiao Sou becoming the Saint of Light. However, ever since the two parties had broken off their relationship, they couldn't wait for this identity to disappear. After all, once the Xiao family's status rose, it wouldn't be good news for them. Di Yuzhu looked at the disciples who were discussing animatedly. His handsome face was filled with seriousness as he spoke in a steady voice. Everyone, restrain yourselves. We're leaving now. As soon as he spoke, the chattering crowd immediately shut their mouths and followed closely behind Di Yuzhu. Today, almost everyone had gathered in one place, which was near the plaza where the successor ceremony of the Holy Light Assembly would be held. Many great forces had come to this grand occasion. Naturally, no one wanted to miss it. As Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, her clear eyes were filled with astonishment when she saw the monstrous array in front of her. The open-air plaza where the assessment had been held a few days ago was already very large. However, the plaza in front of her was almost 10 times larger than the open-air plaza. The guards of the Holy Light Assembly were scattered all around the square, responsible for maintaining order. Young and beautiful attendants politely led the teams of the various forces to their exclusive seats. Only in this way could he ensure that everything would proceed smoothly and in an orderly manner. The giant stage in the center was made of white jade, and it emitted a lustrous luster. The seats around it were also arranged in an extremely intimate manner. If this wasn't a solemn and serious occasion, all kinds of fruits and drinks would have been served. I've long expected this to be an amazing battle, but now that I look at it, it's even more spectacular than I imagined. A.O. Lingxiao couldn't help but sigh. Just from his place alone, he could tell how spectacular the succession ceremony would be. Mo Yunjue sized up everything in front of him. His deep gaze quietly fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Fortunately, all of this was prepared for Hongzhuang. Actually, this square is already very spectacular. The Holy Light Assembly's decennial chanting ceremony is held here. Every time the chanting ceremony was held, a large number of cultivators would rush over. This was because every cultivator would be able to obtain great benefits from the chanting. Chapter 53-74. Di Xiaofeng saw that Di Beiqian and the others might not understand, so he started to explain. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded. Now it was easy to understand. They had just arrived, but the waitress immediately came up to welcome them and led them to the Di family's exclusive seats. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sat down, they understood that the seating arrangement was very particular. It was based on the size of the power. Coincidentally, the Jun family was sitting on the other side of them. The disciples from both sides looked at each other, and naturally, they hated each other. Di Yujue, I didn't expect such a coincidence. Jun Hongcheng looked at Di Yujue with a smile. Today was the day his future daughter-in-law would become the holy maiden of the light. Coincidentally, Di Yujue was sitting beside him. Fate was really strange. I don't think this is a coincidence, said Di Yujue indifferently. His jade-like face carried indifference and arrogance. Jun Hongcheng looked at Di Yujue and felt that this guy's ability to choke people was getting stronger and stronger. He was just casually saying something, and he was choked to the point that he couldn't say anything. However, when he noticed the worry faintly revealed between Di Yujue's brows, his mood improved again. At this moment, Di Yujue was just putting on a strong front, not wanting to lose face. However, he was definitely very vexed in his heart. He was worried that after the Shao clan became stronger, their position would be in danger. Thinking about this, Jun Hongcheng didn't care about being choked just now. After all, they were the ones who benefited from this matter. There was no need to ridicule him. Di Yujue was already ugly enough. Di Yujue didn't know that Jun Hongcheng was thinking about so many things in such a short time. He was actually worried about whether it would be difficult for his daughter-in-law to become the holy maiden of the light. Just by looking at the scale, one could tell how many forces had come here today. If it were an ordinary young man, he would feel extremely nervous standing on this high platform, let alone interrupting the succession ceremony. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beiqian had already shown extraordinary courage, the current situation was obviously different from before. The pressure was far greater than before. Xiaofeng, I've finally met you. A surprised voice rose in the air. Immediately after, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others noticed a group coming from the other side. It was the Murong clan. They hadn't seen Murong Jing for a while since they parted ways in the Waterpool City. The reunion of old friends was naturally a joyous occasion. Murong Jing, what took you so long? Di Xiaofeng stood up with a face full of smiles. I haven't seen your clan's troops in the Piercing Wind City these few days. I'm late. I'm really late. Murong Jing replied with a smile. Our clan was delayed by some matters, and we only arrived at the Piercing Wind City yesterday. Fortunately, we did not miss today's ceremony. It's not a big deal if you miss it. Haha, that's true. Murong Jing naturally understood that the Di family probably didn't want to participate in this succession ceremony. It would be inappropriate if they didn't come because of the Holy Light Assembly. Therefore, they could only reluctantly come. At this time, the more glorious Xiao Sou was, the worse the Di family's reputation would be. Regarding this, he felt very helpless. What pity. Actually, I think Hongzhuang is more suitable to be the Holy Maiden of the Light. Chapter 53-75. Lower your voice. Do you want to be targeted by others at this time? Di Xiaofeng lowered his voice. It was not a big deal for them to talk about such things normally. However, at this time, if they were heard by someone with ulterior motives, it would inevitably cause some trouble. He naturally did not care about such things. However, he did not wish for his friends to be implicated because of him. Looking at Di Xiaofeng's worried expression, Murong Jing smiled calmly. Don't worry, I'm not the only one with this idea. Moreover, even if Xiao Sou is already the Holy Maiden of Light, it's impossible for her to completely stop everyone from talking. Long before he said those words, he had already considered all of this. He believed that the cultivators who participated in the Immortal Cloud secret realm last time would have the same idea. It was just a matter of whether they said it or not. Moreover, His relationship with Di Xiaofeng was so good that Xiao Shou had long been concerned about him. It would be useless for him to distance himself from them. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled faintly. Sure enough, after knowing each other for so long, Murong Jing had always been so calm. Jun Lingxuan looked at Di Xiaofeng and the others who were chatting happily. A trace of coldness flashed through his eyes. These guys were still so annoying. Young Master Di, we meet again. Hearing the familiar voice, Di Beichun turned his head and saw Chun Feng walking over. The Great Devil Sex team was not small. However, Chun Feng had always been the leader of the team. Listening to your voice, you seem to have missed me, Di Beichun teased. Hearing this, Chun Feng chuckled. Indeed, compared to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who already knew about the relationship between Di Beichun and Chun Feng, many of the new faces of the Great Devil sect revealed expressions of disbelief. Their eldest senior brother was usually a person who did not smile. They did not expect him to be so happy talking with someone today. Soon, the disciples in the team who understood the situation started to explain that these two had a life and death relationship. The Jiang clan's team walked over as well. Jiang Wenyan welcomed them with a face full of smiles. The head of the Jiang family was a little confused as to why Jiang Wenyan would choose to rope in the Di family at such a time. However, he didn't think that there was anything wrong with it. Xiao Shou had become the Saint of Light, and her status had changed greatly. However, the Di family was not weak either. It could only be said that Jiang Wenyan favored them more. He was very confident in his son's foresight. Over the past few years, Jiang Wenyan's performance had never disappointed him, so he let Jiang Wenyan be. At this moment, many forces had gathered in the square. When the crowd saw how lively the Di family was, they were all shocked. I thought that since the Xiao family was in the limelight today, many forces would keep their distance from the Di family. I didn't expect the situation to be the opposite of what I expected. Actually, I think that the Di family isn't weak either. Moreover, they have alchemists, doctors, and inscriptionists. This development will be very impressive. This is going to be really lively. Naturally, the Lin family's team was not far away. It was just that they had arrived slightly later than them, so there were two more teams between them. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on the back. The stronger the force, the more seats they would have. The Bailey family was only a small family. Naturally, their status could not be compared to the big families. Therefore, she was also curious as to where her seat would be. Chapter 5376. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also surprised. Logically speaking, the Bailey family and the Ao family should be on the same scale. Even though they were only one row ahead of the rest, it was enough to show that they were ahead of the rest by quite a bit. However, after thinking about it for a while, she came to an understanding. Thinking about it, this was probably an arrangement made after seeing her relationship with the Di family. The Ao family was dependent on the Jun family, while the Bailey family and the Di family were connected by marriage. Naturally, the two families were completely different. After Bai Li Fan sat in the seat that was arranged, he was also very surprised. This was because some of the families that were more influential than them were actually ranked at the back. Originally, he was worried that his family's position was wrong, but after confirming it again and again, he was sure that everything was correct and there was no problem. At such a lively time, the Nangong family naturally arrived. As soon as the news of Xiao Shou and Jun Lingxuan's engagement spread, Nangong Yuqing had completely given up on this idea. In fact, he already knew that his chances were not high. Moreover, his father no longer supported him, so all his efforts over the years were in vain. Seeing the people from the Nangong family arrive, Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at them and found that Nangong Xiaolong was not in the group. Hongzhuang, Nangong Xiaolong actually did not appear at such a lively occasion. How surprising. Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with surprise. She originally thought that she would definitely see him today. Presumably, he also knows how shameful his current appearance is, so he didn't come. Bailey Hongzhuang said faintly. For such a shameless guy, she really felt disgusted. If she had not been soft-hearted in the end, it would have been a good thing for such a person to fall early. However, after this incident, Nangong Xiaolong's status in the Nangong family would be greatly reduced. This was not bad. In fact, everything was as Bailey Hongzhuang had expected. Nangong Xiaolong had been crippled by many forces. If he were to appear today, it would definitely remind everyone of the previous incident. Once they started talking about it, it would be extremely detrimental to their family's image. After much consideration, he finally made this decision. Of course, Nangong Xiaolong was extremely indignant about this. "Father, I'm going to the Bailey family's team." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Yujue and said, she was now the head of the Bailey family. Although she was also the young mistress of the Di family, she still had to make a trip there. Hearing this, Di Yujue naturally knew about this situation. He immediately nodded and said, "Go." In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked towards the Bailey family. By now, most of the teams had already taken their seats. The square was very large, but there were even more people here. In a short period of time, all the seats were filled. Therefore, when Bailey Hongzhuang stood up, she attracted a lot of attention. A beauty was already very eye-catching, let alone the young mistress of the Di family, who was extremely eye-catching today. When the crowd saw the direction that Bailey Hongzhuang was walking in, they immediately understood. However, many people were still shocked. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.